All right, welcome back, everyone. Once again, this is the school committee's meeting of April 9th, 2026. And at 5:58 p.m., I call the committee back to order after our executive session. Mr. Marion, if you could just flip back to the agenda for 1 second. The next item on our agenda is public comment. And now you can flip over to public comment. We will tonight hold public comment for a period of 20 minutes, but obviously mindful of the fact that there are so many folks in the room. I will use some discretion if there happens to be additional comment that extends beyond the 20 minutes. But anyone who wishes to speak before the committee comes to the microphone that's in front of us, identifies themselves with their name, and shall speak for no longer than 3 minutes. All remarks are addressed through the chair of the meeting, and it is always important for us to remind everybody that public comment is not a discussion, a debate, or a dialogue between residents of Winchester and the committee. It is just an opportunity for those who live here to express their opinions to us on issues around school committee business. If you have a comment that's longer than 3 minutes, please feel free to present it to us either before you leave tonight or via email. That's schoolcommittee@winchesterps.org, either during or after the meeting, and the committee members will review that full comment for consideration at an appropriate time. I do not believe that given the executive session, we did have a sign-up sheet, but at this time I would invite folks to come forward and give public comment. And as I said, 20 minutes usually means, sort of 3 minutes adding up to 20. So we welcome you to the microphone. All right, if you want to come.
Do you have a timekeeper?
And can I ask the vice chair to?
Yep.
Hello, my name is Christopher Kahn. I'm 12 and I'm a 6th grader at McCall Middle School. Let's just imagine that you're a kindergartner and you just made a lot of friends. You're in a nice friend group and you're happy. And then, bam, you get shipped to another elementary school and you get separated from all of your friends and you have to start over. I would hate for that to happen to me, and I think you guys would too. If I were a kindergartner, then I would try to fight it myself, but I'd be scared. And I'd need the help of people like these to help me. And I'd need the help of people like you to vote to help me. That's kind of all I wanted to say. Thank you for listening to me.
How to fall? Can you hear me? I have to really lean down.
Thank you so much. I obviously we're going to try and make this move as quickly as possible, but whenever one of our students comes and speaks, I just want to say thank you for doing that and being brave enough to stand up here in front of a room full of people, including all of us at this imposing table. So thank you so much for coming tonight.
Do I have to push this? Can you hear me?
No, as long as it's
okay.
green, you're good to go.
Okay, cool. Hi. That's a tough act to follow here. So I will read. So my name is David Leach. My wife Stacy works at Lincoln Elementary. I have 3 kids, 2 who went through Morocco that are now at McCall. I have 1 who will be in Morocco in 2 years. I've coached youth sports in Winchester since my kids were 4 years old. And through my work, I visited elementary schools all across the state. I know what well-resourced schools look like, and I really do believe Morocco deserves to be one of those schools, especially in Winchester public schools. I do want to start by saying that I do have real respect for the work this committee does, the administration does, and this district does. These are hard decisions under real constraints, and I truly don't take lightly what you're asked to figure out right now. But I also want to be honest about why people are here tonight, and I recognize that things have changed since an email was sent out. I recognize that, but I still am happy that people showed up tonight, even though that email was sent. There are a lot of questions swirling in our community, and sometimes not enough answers. I think we just want to understand publicly how decisions are made, what the options are, what the trade-offs look like, and what the roadmap is, not just for this year, but for the years ahead. Many of us in this room have voted for overrides over the past decade to support this school district, including overrides that didn't directly benefit Morocco. We showed up for the recent vote too. And yet, if you look honestly at the pattern, this part of town tends to come last. On school resources, on traffic calming, on playgrounds and public spaces, on basic town repairs. I think part of the reason is that this community often doesn't have the same time and organizational capacity that other parts of town do. The parents in this neighborhood are not less invested, they're just less available on a Tuesday night sometimes. And that has consequences, obviously. So I'll finish by saying that's why we're here tonight. Not to be difficult, but to be heard. We'd ask that the committee be transparent with us, that you answer the questions people have, and that you treat this community as a full partner in whatever decisions may come next. Thank you.
Hello. I can't believe Chris did this because this is nerve-wracking and I'm an adult, so. I'm here tonight as a Morocco staff member. I'm Kelly Cunha.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Kelly Cunha. I'm a Morocco staff member. I'm the social emotional learning coach and school social worker and proud union rep for Morocco. And I want to speak to the process that we just experienced as a staff and as a school. Yesterday, kindergarten and first grade teachers were told that they would be moving to the Lynch School. When they asked if the decision was final, they were told it was. This morning, the rest of the staff of Morocco was informed about the drastic changes coming to our small but mighty school, and that it was not reversible. Mere hours later, that same decision has been reversed in response to community outcry. That contradiction matters. It matters because it erodes trust. It calls into question the transparency and credibility of leadership, and it leaves staff and families wondering, was this truly a thoughtful, student-centered decision, or one made hastily without full consideration of its impact? Decisions that affect children, classrooms, and entire school communities should not feel this uncertain or reactive. They should be grounded in care, clarity, and collaboration from the start. Instead, what Morocco experienced was confusion, stress, and an emotional whiplash that could have been avoided. And I think it's fair to ask, were we told this decision was not reversible to discourage advocacy? Or was it presented that way because the process itself lacked integrity? Either way, it has damaged trust. Morocco continues to feel like the place where difficult decisions land first and hardest. Our community sees that, and more importantly, our students feel the effects of it. They and we deserve better than this process. Thank you.
Good evening, Seamus Brady, 15 Clematis Street, parent of a current Morocco third grader and a Morocco kindergartner next fall who will graduate from Morocco, whether it's the building it is now or a rebuilt building. I have tremendous respect for everyone sitting at this table. You all know that. I have worked with many of you. I know you well. I served on the school committee with quite a few of you. I have worked with you in many capacities, volunteering for this town, and I appreciate everything that you do. But I am shocked. Shock doesn't even begin to describe how I felt when I heard all this ridiculousness about this plan. And you know what? You hurt kids. You hurt kids, and you can sit with that. You hurt kids because kids know about this, kids heard about this, and they are anxious and they are worried, and you did that. You adults did that, and that's forever. You did it, and it's forever. And I need you to understand that. You hurt kids, and they will always remember it. Always. Because kids don't forget. I can tell you about the bad things that happened when I was in elementary school as a first grader. So I can tell you these third graders are definitely going to remember this, right? Remember when, oh, they had to worry about, wait a minute, my little brother's not going to get to come to the same school as me. I've been looking forward to this ever since I started as a kindergartner. It is just outrageous. I'm profoundly disappointed, and because I respect so many people so much, and again, I want to make this clear, I know it was not everyone at this table. I know exactly who it was, and that's who I'm profoundly disappointed in, and I thank the people at this table who have fought and continue to fight for Morocco and will always fight for Morocco no matter what. And I appreciate everyone who showed up. I appreciate the young man who spoke. I think he said all you needed to hear. So I just want to thank everybody for being here, and I want to thank you all. As I've said it before, and I'll say it again for Winchester, it's never too late to do the right thing. I appreciate that you're doing the right thing. I know you will do the right thing. You will vote yes on the feasibility study, and you will back it 100% full-throatedly. Thank you.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
I think so.
Hillary Eaton, 5 Dean Road, mom to a current third grader and a current first grader at Morocco, co-president of VAN, variety over town meeting member, precinct 1. Echo what everybody has said. It's unfortunate the override didn't pass. It leaves us in a hard place. And also echo respect for the work that people put in when there are hard decisions to be made. That said, 2 things come to mind even post the email. First, communication botch up. You should not have to hear about stuff like this from your kid, right? My third grader is having surgery tomorrow, and she came home from school yesterday absolutely anxious as hell because she heard a rumor circulating before it even hit my inbox, right? So echo what was said, you guys hurt kids, and they're not gonna forget that, right? Understand things move fast. Understand it's hard to figure out when the right time to disseminate sort of plans that are not fully fleshed, right? But whatever happened, however it happened poorly. And there deserves to be an apology, not just from leadership, but across the board from anybody who participated in that happening. Second of all, Morocco showed up. That's fantastic, right? Where are the non-Morocco parents here, right? We showed up so many times. Awesome, awesome. So what was that? Like, was that five, 6, right? We have showed up and voted in support of every single other school being built. And not just being built to like nice, being built to really nice. While Morocco doesn't have fucking air conditioning, right? End comment.
My name is Tate Campbell, 17-4 Circle, and I have 2 kids at Morocco, a kindergartner and a third grader. And when this plan was initially presented to me, what I heard this morning, that I would have to take a kid next year to Lynch and another kid to Morocco on the same morning and get them to school within a 5-minute window at schools that are 30 minutes apart with commuter traffic. It didn't seem feasible at all. And I got that email just now that is a step in the right direction. I will soon have a third child at Morocco Elementary, and now I'm worried about signing them up in time, so I still don't have to make a trek across town to get a kid to Morocco and a kid to Lynch Elementary. So it's a step in the right direction. I'm worried about the next couple of years as well. I don't want to lose the expertise we have at this school. My kids have had great teachers in this time while they've been at this elementary school. And let's make it work. Let's find something. Let's see what the other options are, and let's do better. Thank you.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Hi, John. Glad to see you here. My name is Steve Hanley. I live at 85 Brookside. My wife and I, Eliza, have 4 kids. 3 of which go to Morocco. Liam's in 4th grade, Eddie's in 2nd, and then I have a kindergartner, Aiden, and then a baby 1.5, who we look forward to having her go to Morocco someday soon. The favorite part of my day is when I walk my kids with my wife to school. Some days we can't do that because baby, she's not ready for that, and so then I will ride my bike with my other 3 kids to school. It's the favorite part of my day. And I think a lot of people in this town are able to walk and ride their kids to school. That is really, really great about this town. It's one of the reasons we moved here, and it's one of the reasons I think a lot of people love living here. I really understand the problem you all have. It is a hard problem. I appreciate the position you're in. I empathize with you. It must be really hard when you expected to get a lot of money and then you didn't get it, and I understand why you now need to look at the budget and find creative ways to cut the budget. But what if there is another way?
I'm all ears.
I think we are $3 million. We said it's $3.1 million short of your spending budget that you need for next year. Is that right? About that. How many kids go to the town of Winchester public schools? For easy math, we'll say around 3,000 kids. 4,000? So it's even better. So we'll go with 3,000 to assume the number is lower. So if you need to raise $3 million and you have 3,000 kids, that's about $1,000 a kid. I guarantee you, if you asked parents that you told them, hey, we need about $1,000 a kid. If you can give a little more than that, great. If you can't, great. You'll raise that money, and you'll probably raise more than the money than you need. And I just wonder if we can think about that in a lot of other ways in this town. Instead of doing this yes or no vote for $11 million, what if we asked, hey, here's the budget that we need to spend for X. It'll cost about Y per person. Whatever you're willing to give to that, great. And then you get a way for the community to kind of vote with their dollars and their wallet on what they want to spend and what they want you to spend their money on. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Julianne Chmielewski. I go by Julie. Live at 5 Polk Road. I have a 1st grader at Morocco right now and a rising kindergartner and a younger baby who will hopefully be a Morocco wizard in the near future. I'm here tonight to talk to you about 2 points. One is the K-1 messaging that you've heard a lot about already, and also the Morocco feasibility and our path towards a new Morocco and what that looks like. The 2 are intertwined, and I echo a lot of what has been said earlier around the messaging and how this could have been improved for our community, our parents, and most importantly, our students who are hurt by this and who feel the vibes in the building. First, this committee voted last week unanimously 5-0 to advance the Morocco feasibility study to spring town meeting and to let the town meeting members decide if we would go forward with funding at this point, keep ourselves in the MSBA process, and work towards a new Morocco. We've heard tonight that that vote will be taken again, and this was not communicated well to our community, and we're not really understanding the change of heart here. It's also very difficult when backdoor conversations are happening and the community thinks that we are okay, that we had a unanimous vote, and now we're not sure what has changed, and now we didn't even know this was coming again. In conjunction, this K-1 messaging, I will not repeat everything that's been said, but I agree with all of the points. This needs to change, and together, these 2 issues, the feasibility and the K-1 messaging, erodes a lot of support for Morocco, or at least gives the appearance that there is not a lot of support for Morocco. That hurts the students. It also sends a very poor message to our teachers and educators, who many of whom are here tonight and who do a wonderful job. We need to support them, and that means giving them K-1, means providing them with a building. Postponing this feasibility study means that our students stay in a crumbling building longer and further divides the inequity that we already see in this town. As you've heard, our students do not have STEAM rooms. They do not have a lot of the resources that the other schools have, and they have been waiting. This community has been waiting for more than 20 years for a new Morocco. So I please encourage you tonight to consider the K-1 piece, to consider the feasibility study. Our community deserves more, our students deserve more, and we can do better. It's also, I think, worth noting that I do understand the position that you're in with the override not passing, but I do not think it's fair that the Morocco community has to bear the brunt of some of these cuts. So please consider that. Thank you very much.
So before we move on, I just want to say, it looks like we have, is it fair to say that everybody who's standing under the flag up to the door is interested in speaking? Can everybody just give me a thumbs up if that's the case? So I'm going to exercise judgment. We're going to go beyond 20 minutes, but just for the folks who are currently in line. So I believe Ms. Brady is going to be the last speaker. Is that okay? And then we will close public comment. So we normally wouldn't do this, but I understand how many of you showed up tonight, and so I hope that's amenable to everybody in the room. But so we'll let Ms. Brady be the last commenter. Good. All right. Welcome, Mrs. Begna.
I'm Melissa Testa.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. No. I'm a kindergarten teacher at Morocco School. I've been... Thank you. I've been there for 25 years, proud member of the Morocco School staff. Two of my children also attended Morocco School, so I'm also a Morocco parent. It was so long ago. Many don't maybe even know that, actually. I'm here today to talk about the last 2 days at Morocco School, which have been quite emotional for all of us, as many have known. My colleagues are my family, and like I said, I've been there over many years. I've also, most importantly, been connected to hundreds of families, many who are here now supporting us, and many, many children who have made my days very light. We all take great pride in our amazing school. I've also been part of many, many committees, initiatives, and I've sat in countless meetings. Yesterday, I sat in the hardest meeting of my 32-year career. And along with 5 of my colleagues, Laurie, Kirby, and Leslie, we sat and we got delivered the extremely difficult news of the K1 merger to Lynch. And as you can imagine, it was a shock and pretty devastating. And Laurie and Leslie fielded questions and handled it with respect and grace. And like I said, it was really very difficult. Excuse me. And as we all know, we've heard today, we've heard emails. Today was a roller coaster of emotions. And the reason I speak now is receiving the email tonight to hear that it was given prematurely and there was some confusion. It just struck me, the lightheartedness of it felt a little bit, I found it to feel a little disrespected because of the emotion. I left Morocco yesterday, a place that I have spent 25 years. I went home last night realizing I might not go back there next year. And I can't explain what that felt like. 25 years is a long time to spend somewhere. Without giving away, it's almost half my life, quite frankly. Not quite, as my husband reminded me, but, and that's a lot. And I just need to remind, Frank, with respect, please, I understand you're taking responsibility and mistakes happen, and I understand financially there's a lot of pressure and this is very, very tough times. But I'm pleading with you, in the future, as you make decisions, I'm asking you to please remember and be present in these decisions and be very, very careful as you move forward of what's at stake here, both emotionally with children, with families, teachers. As you move forward, please be careful of the confusion and please be present as you make future decisions. Thank you.
Way to go, Mrs. Testa. Can you guys hear me? So hello, good evening. I'm a stander, so I'm going to stand behind this wonderful rally support. My name is Catherine Brodowski, and I live at 2 Ainsworth Road in Winchester. I'm here tonight to objectively kind of offer you a historical perspective that might be helpful. I have a first grader who actually was in Mrs. Testa's class. But my family is now, she is the 4th generation here. So my family has lived in Winchester for a very long time, and we have gone through many school systems and seen changes throughout these years. When you make drastic changes to a school, it does affect the community for years to come. My mom, who is 83, actually attended the school that is no longer with us. It is the grammar school that was across the high school and by the lake. A historical perspective is that as we live in Winchester, our populations grow and they wane. And our budgets also do the same thing for a variety of reasons, political, economics. But the changes to the character of the school should be considered with gravity because it affects people for generations. So I'm giving you that generational perspective. If you, for example, change kindergarten and first grade, you also lose institutional knowledge. Mrs. Testa and her colleagues have been there for decades and are superb. Thank you. So I understand objectively we all need to make ends meet and we need to consider our budgets. But do be mindful that when you're considering them, when you change something, think about how it will unravel or alter the community and character of the town for future generations, whether it is institutional knowledge or the form of the building, or for all the different grades in there, whether it goes beyond K through 5th grade. We've heard many rumors as parents. I don't talk in rumors, so I just speak in facts. I would just caution you to remember that what you do tonight will affect other generations and my daughter's generations, since we ourselves have lived here for very, very long. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Fiona Adler. I'm at 8 Webster Street. Thank you all for your time today. We really appreciate it. I am a parent of a kindergartner at Morocco this year. If you couldn't already tell from my spirit wear, shout out to my daughter for helping me squeeze into her shirt. I need to get my own. I also have 2 other future Morocco students. Even before my daughter started at Morocco, I had countless conversations with alumni and neighbors about how special and unique this community is. I've been a part of many communities over the years in different places, and I now see firsthand that the culture of Morocco is one any child would be lucky to be a part of. A couple weeks ago at drop-off, I saw a 5th grader approach a group of students, they were kindergartners, give them a big hug and say, "You're back. I'm so glad you're feeling better. I have a million things to tell you." Word had spread that the younger students had been out sick and their older buddies genuinely missed them, seeing them in the cafeteria at lunch. This doesn't happen at every school. My kindergartner reveres her older peers, and there's a culture here of kindness, intellectual curiosity, and enthusiasm that has been carefully fostered over many years at Morocco. The teachers do everything they can to support young children as they transition into school life, and disrupting that by removing younger students from Morocco would be deeply harmful at this stage of development. Making younger children bear the consequences of budget decisions simply because it is the easiest short-term option is heartbreaking and frankly short-sighted and irresponsible. It would be also creating a significant logistical burden for families, as we've already heard. Parents across town should be paying attention as well. Even if it's not the intent, it feels like the beginning of a path towards eliminating Morocco and making significant structural changes. That would not only impact this school, but could lead to larger class sizes and ripple effects across all elementary schools in the town. Other schools have benefited from renovations and rebuilds, and now it is finally Morocco's turn, not only for the families who have been patiently waiting, but also for the dedicated Morocco teachers and staff who consistently put students first and somehow make it all work every day. I'm almost done. After school today, students across grades were playing together, making fairy houses, creating these kinds of everyday moments that define a childhood. And at the risk of being cheesy, that's Morocco magic. Please don't dismantle an entire community and culture that is working so well for our youngest learners. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Rick Thide. I'm a resident of 22 Stone Avenue. I have a first grade son at Morocco School, and He's an alum of Parkhurst Preschool since he turned 2 years, 9 months, and a daughter who's now at preschool at Lynch and is hopefully moving to Morocco next year for kindergarten. And, we have the perspective with being part of the preschool program in town of what it's like to have to ferry the kids to multiple schools in the morning. And it's been a big challenge. It's one that my family is fortunate enough to have the flexibility with work and other things with our family to manage. But I couldn't imagine how many families would be able to cope with that and deal with that. Since we moved to Winchester in 2018, we saw the condition of the local school. It's something that and other schools, it's something that I expected would be addressed for our kids. And as I've seen the politics in town unfold in the year, 5-6 years we've been here, I'm just not surprised to be here tonight to see this lack of support come forward for this school. It felt inevitable that we would see this type of challenge to supporting Morocco, given how other things have gone in town. And, our son faces some special challenges in school. We've had so much incredible support at Morocco for him. And, we get him private support as well. And when you talk to parents from other towns that don't provide the resources that Winchester provides, we don't want to become, one of those communities. And I think, I just encourage you to continue to stay the course, support Morocco, support the rebuild, and, let this community support the schools. I know many of the detractors of the recent override said that they would support the school, support Morocco, and so we should expect, this community, wider community, to step up for us as well. Thanks.
We're coming in as a team.
You're a team.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I'll just sound ominous.
So my name is Estrie Fletcher. This is Richard. We live at 15 Chester Street, which is about 0.3 miles from Morocco Elementary School. I'm the mother of 3 boys, ages 6, 5, and 15 months. We moved here in 2021. We were thrilled. We were so close to elementary school. We bought our house with dreams of walking our boys to school, just like my husband did to his state school when he, in 1990s. Yeah. My oldest son started kindergarten this year. He's in Ms. Cummings' class. It has a class size of 13 children. They had, I believe, 40 kids, and we had the opportunity to have 3 sections of kindergarten. He's in a class of 13 kids, which is really important because he is neurodivergent and is on an IEP. He really depends on that activity to ride his bike to school, as well as having a smaller class size because children overwhelm him. When he was in daycare, he would tell me, "Mommy, friends are scary. I don't want to go to school." So the fact that he is doing so well in this small class size of 13 has been critical to allowing him to succeed in his transition to big boy school. He's also, the only thing he's been talking about the last few months is that his brother will be joining him at Morocco. My pre-K child rides his bike. They just got new mountain bikes. They're so excited. They ride every day together. My middle son now gets up an hour early so he can ride his mountain bike to school with his big brother, and he's so excited to join him. I'm also an early relational health psychiatrist. I know how important early life exposures to lack of emotional safety, emotional anxieties, and instabilities in fundamentally safe institutions like our elementary schools, access to our teachers, can have on the lifelong trajectories of mental health and physical health of our children. I work with severely depressed, treatment-resistant adults every day. And most times, a lot of these fundamental, I won't say traumas because that's such a loaded word, fundamental incidents that led to these happen in early childhood and elementary school. I am so glad that I'm going to be having both boys at Morocco last year, but I am also concerned. I know we have to cut costs, but I'm concerned about the higher class sizes. I know we're going down to 2 sections for both kindergartners and first graders. This is going to be a big change for my older son, especially on the IEP. My younger son, I think, will be able to adjust. I just want to ask, why is it that my 5- and 6-year-old are bearing the brunt of the cost of shortfall?
I'm sorry, that was the timer. If you could just...
Thank you.
We're happy to take note if you have, if it looks like you might have written things down.
I
So
do.
please
I'm
feel free
almost
to...
done. I'm
Okay,
almost
sure.
done. Why that they are bearing the brunt of the shortfall. And I just want to compare the experiences of other kindergartners. What are their class sizes like? Especially for kindergartners who do get to enjoy schools where they have the benefit of fairly exorbitant spendings. I also want to ask, consider the human cost of, for example, asking Ms. Testa, who is an absolute Winchester institution, to leave Morocco, or Ms. Cummings, my son's kindergarten teacher. She taught in her first year of being a teacher, my kid's first babysitter. That's the kind of community that we have in our neighborhood. And this is how you tear communities apart. We know that multiple parents of Morocco alums in our various professional capacities who really feel that Morocco is a jewel in the Winchester school system. The fact that even without significant resources, Morocco has been thriving while this town seems to be actively overlooking and depriving the school is so disappointing. I currently pay WinRec $1,000 a month to send my child for pre-K there. I would pay for this. I would pay that and more for him to have access to the kindergarten experience my oldest son has. To the point of that dad who made that point.
I'm sorry. We really do need to move
yes,
on. I'm so sorry.
That is literally the last line.
Okay.
Thank you very much. We feel very strongly.
Thank you. So just if there's anyone who came in after, I had previously said that Ms. Brady was going to be.
Not even a rule break, okay? Take 10 seconds.
She can have 10 of my seconds.
10
I'll
seconds,
be brief.
I'll allow it. Okay. But then that has to be, because we really are double our usual, and we've got so much to do tonight. So thank you, Ms. Brady. Welcome.
Hi, Anthea Brady, 15 Clematis Street. I speak as a parent of a Morocco third grader and incoming kindergartner, but I might reference some of my other experience in town. I'm not speaking on behalf of the select board. When we moved to Winchester, we were told about what a wonderful place that Morocco school was, and I can confirm after 4 years there that that was an understatement. As has been said by just about everybody before me, the Morocco community has stood up for other schools across the town. And I want to point out that Morocco Precinct 1 was one of 2 precincts that voted in favor of the override. When I heard via secondhand text that Morocco might be heading towards closure and that the K-1 would be moved out of Morocco, it was like the rug had been pulled out from under us. My third grader had his first ever day of MCAS testing today. This is not the kind of distraction appropriate to kids undergoing their first high-stakes test. As alluded to, and most of you know, I'm the chair of the select board, and I found out about this via a screenshot of a text. To repeat that, I heard about this via a screenshot of a text. The communication failure is embarrassing. I know, because we do as well, that you have difficult decisions with the WPS budget. It is hard to look at the differences and the trade-offs and figure out what's the best path forward and what's going to not hurt people the most. I ask that difficult decisions aren't surprises, that despite the urgency of preparing for a town meeting, that decisions which impact our Morocco teachers and students are thoughtful, that they're vetted, and that they're collaborative with the community. I guarantee that there are people in this room who will make the time to volunteer to making sure that Morocco continues to be such a strong community. Thank you.
10 seconds.
Timer, go. I'm Brienne Black. I am a former Morocco parent. My kids are in middle school and high school now. I came here tonight when I heard what was going on, and I just came to support these teachers who have shaped my children in ways that I can't imagine any better. They're all so wonderful. So I'm asking and we walked in tonight as parents, and they stood and clapped for the parents. And so I am asking now if everyone in the room could just please and stand, and you guys stay seated and let us stand and clap for you.
All right, so with that, I am going to close public comment, and I believe that both the superintendent and I would like to make unscheduled remarks tonight. I am going to go first and say just 3 very brief things. Number 1, my name is Tim Matthews, and I have an incoming Morocco kindergartner next fall. Her name is Rose. And so like the chair of the select board, I happen to be, it's an unusual thing that at this moment, both the chair of the select board and the chair of the school committee happen to be Precinct 1 residents who are future and current Morocco parents. So this is very personal, and I hope that what you all see tonight is not me in my official role 100%, because I am here to keep order in the meeting and keep things moving along, but also someone who has shed tears about this over the past several weeks, especially since the override failure, who is going to be personally and deeply affected by every decision that we make at this table. And I think I'm not alone. I think each of us has children who will be affected by the budget cuts that are coming to the Winchester Public Schools. And I will just make the point that, we have unanimously voted both to support additional funding to support the Winchester Public Schools, as well as to support Morocco being rebuilt through the MSBA process. The second thing I will say is, as Ms. Brady noted, we're in a really tough spot right now. We do not have enough funding to do what we need to do from last year to this year. And that necessitates making hard decisions. That does not take away our obligation to communicate those decisions as well as possible. And what I would encourage all of you to do is to pay attention to the meetings that this body has over the next several weeks, as well as the meetings that our select board has, the meetings our finance committee has, and the meetings our town meeting has, because your voices are every bit as important in those venues as they are at our meeting tonight. We are not the only board that makes decisions for Winchester. We are really only able to allocate the budget that we are given by town meeting. And the budget that town meeting votes is the budget that is placed on the floor by Winchester's Finance Committee. So if you have these feelings, please share them as widely as possible with all the elected and appointed officials in Winchester who are responsible for putting together the budgetary decisions that will be made on the floor of town meeting at the beginning of May, because everyone needs to hear your passion, your advocacy, and your voices in those settings. It's absolutely essential that they understand how passionate this group of people is, and we all advocate in front of those other groups. The third thing I will say is, as chair of this committee, my North Star in this whole process will always be what's best for our students under the given circumstances. I can promise you that we will have to make decisions in the coming weeks that no one, including the people at this table, will be happy with. I pledge to you that we will do that only after a tremendous amount of debate. And as a committee, we may not always vote 5-0. We might take votes that are less than unanimous. But I can pledge to you that we will, from this point forward, speak primarily from this table. And I think that's incredibly essential because the time that we find ourselves in is incredibly difficult. And so I am going to commit to you, and I hope I can be joined by all of my colleagues in this, that the decisions that we make you will find out from this table. And so what I will say is, if you hear rumors or you hear things that are being communicated, check back and see what school committee's up to, because it's very likely that things are going to be moving incredibly quickly between now and town meeting as we try to wrap our heads around what's necessary. Obviously, we have wonderful staff who are doing their very best, but obviously fall short sometimes as well, given the timeline. So please check back, know what we're doing, come to our meetings, continue to comment, and go to other meetings and comment as well. We would love to have you all to participate more over the coming weeks as we lead up to our budget. So just as a last note, town meeting is not able to vote on the budget until after its first meeting after the 1st of May. And so keep that on your agendas. Town meetings meets on Monday nights and Thursday nights, and the budget meetings, depending whatever the moderator decides, will happen on the first Monday after the 1st of May. Come join us. Use your voices, ask the moderator to speak even if you're not town meeting members, and make sure that you continue advocating for the community. Thank you all for coming out tonight, and I'll turn it over to the superintendent.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. So I want to start my comments with a few things. I apologize if my apology seemed insincere, because it wasn't. I didn't mean it to be that way, and I take responsibility for the communication that came out and the communication that was provided to staff and the trickle communication that went to the community. I would like to think after 5 years that people that I've been able to work with closely understand that I am also here for all kids, and that was truly a mistake with good intentions. And the intentions are that there is a pressure between having 12 to 15 non-professional status teachers out in our schools who do not know what their future is going to be as of right now. They do not know if they're going to have a job, and they do not know if they're going to have a job where that job is going to be. I feel that pressure on behalf of teachers. I feel it on behalf of kids. And we don't have a lot of time. So we have next week, right? That's all we've got. Town meeting is the week after April vacation. So we have a responsibility, I have a responsibility to provide this committee with what I've been charged to provide, which is a 5% budget. Right. So that is the task. I also just want to be super clear that it isn't anybody else around this table but me that owns that decision. So to Mr. Brady's comments and anybody else's comments, if you want to be angry, I am the person to be angry. I appreciate and feel sorry and respect putting Ms. Kirby in that situation, putting Ms. West in that situation, and putting the Morocco staff and the Morocco families and the Morocco children in that situation. I have 3 kids myself, so I understand, and I absolutely understand the consequences of these decisions. But I also have so I meant my apology, I mean my apology, and I will do better. But it's me, not anybody else. Now, here's where we are, okay? I also have said since I've been here since 21-22 that we are in the bottom 30% of per pupil expenditures of every single school system, public school system in the Commonwealth. The bottom 33%. That hasn't changed. It hasn't moved. Okay? The override would have changed it, right? And when we talk about the wonderful resources we have, I just want to make sure everyone understands that we are doing it with a budget that is roughly $35 million less than what Wellesley spends on the same number of students that in fact, we have more students now than Wellesley has than us. And they are spending $10,000 to $11,000 more per pupil than we are. So the resources that we have are incredible, and we're lucky we have the people we have, because I can tell you if we didn't have the people we have, we would definitely be in trouble. When I first got here, nobody dared to ask for anything. Teachers putting duct tape around books. The environment here was we do the best we can with what we have, right? And we don't ask for more because we aren't going to get it. That's the environment. So the idea that we're going to be able to continue to operate when we're already at the bottom of 33%, the idea that we're going to be able to keep what we have, and I understand that nobody's necessarily thinking that, it's not going to work. We are reducing right now over $3 million, $3.1, $3.2 million of a budget that is already in the bottom 33%. This committee can only do what they are given for funding to do, right? This administration would like nothing more to have class sizes of 13 across the district. To directly answer the question about how do Morocco's class sizes compare, it's not even close. 13 students in a kindergarten classroom, 13 students in a grade 1 classroom is not even close. And we've been living with those class sizes and supporting that through the budget since I've been here. So the idea that Morocco has not very close to it. 13 per class this year, currently.
1 year.
Okay, I will go back and tell you that, okay, I may be 2, 3 off. The point is this. We could have taken the reduction going into this year, and we didn't take the reduction going into this year. So where we are from a budget standpoint is there's nowhere else to go. Everyone is going to be affected by any decision that gets made tonight, whether they are affected as a school community or whether it's the personnel and staffing that are affected within the building. Because there's going to be someone affected in every single building when we start making these reductions and people start bumping into other schools, right? So the staff that you have at Morocco right now, I can guarantee you, as I sit here right now, may not look the same as it does right now. There's simply no way around it. And I also want to just manage expectations that this is a presentation of a 5% budget. There's talk within the community. We're not going to be recommended. We're not going to be starting at town meeting with a 5% budget. It's going to be less than that, and it could be as low as 3. So that's another $1 million. I say that because this committee only can do so much in this process. It goes to town meeting. So the advocacy of you for here is super important, but this committee is your best hope. They are the ones that are trying to make do with the results of an override vote that we all are disappointed of. A lot of communications went out, and it didn't pass. That's where we are, okay? So we have to cut $3.3 billion to get to 5%. There's nowhere else to go. There are reductions that we're going to be presenting they're across all categories of employees, from central office to Unit B to Unit C. Every category of employees is going to be touched by this, just to get to 5%. So I appreciate the advocacy. I am the one that submitted this statement of interest to the committee for action and vote on Morocco. I was told, don't submit now because it's not by this group, because it's not going to be approved, because the MSBA will never approve 2 projects at the same time. We submitted anyway. We are in that process. We are committed to that process. I will also say this committee is the only body in this town that can shut down a school, a operating school, is this committee. Nobody else can make that decision for us, for them. So it rests here, which is an important point because for the last several weeks, I have heard people say and been quoted in the paper respectfully to Ms. Brady and the select board. People have been quoted saying that we're going to shut down Morocco, that we are never going to get more than a 2.5% budget, that we need to figure that out, that we're going to have to do all these different things, that we're not going to be able to do the project. That's not coming from us. So the communication has been taken away from us, and people are saying things that just aren't accurate. This is the body that votes the budget. We've committed to a 5%. We've got to get there. There's going to be impacts on every school. This is the body that voted to support the SOI statement going to the MSBA. We're committed to that process. You're not going to like what I have to say additionally tonight. So I just want to make sure that you understand. But I also want to make sure you understand that I am making my recommendations tonight based on what I truly believe to be some of the only options we have available to us, and with the understanding that it may not be supported as it is. So I am sincerely apologetic for the communication issue. I absolutely own it. I've been doing this a long time, and I've not made many mistakes like that. And I do apologize for that. But I also know that we are running out of time. People need to know whether they have a job or not, and they need to know where that job's going to be. And I'm very concerned that our newer employees, that our employees who are non-professional status, are so concerned that they're going to start applying, and we're going to lose people, good people, because they don't know whether they have a job here or not. So I feel that pressure too, and I think that pressure does impact everyone in here, including students. So that. I own it. It wasn't my intent, but clearly it was the impact. I am glad you're here. I'm glad you are all here, because you need to be paying attention to what's going on right now. Like, if there's a time for you to engage, it would be right now. And I am committed to providing you the best information, the most accurate information I can. I've always taken pride in not being the first, but trying to be the most accurate, and I got burned. I burned myself by trying to be first. But I'm also sensitive to the comments that are going on out in the community where people are trying to solve problems that are not their business. This committee has not had a conversation about any reductions yet. This committee is not talking about shutting down Morocco. So while your passion is needed, just understand that this group is with you. I am with you. My administration is with you. But we've got to figure out how to get there. And we have a reality facing us right now of trying to get a budget through and of trying to get a $700,000 literacy article through, which we've spent 3 years. Some of you in this room have sat in that desk and have made comments that were not positive and very critical and understandably and not inaccurate. We worked very hard to change that over the last 3 years. We are at the table now. And there's no guarantee that an $800,000 article is going to pass a town meeting. So it's a budget of 5% that may not be a 5%. It's a literacy article at $700,000 or so that may not get passed. And on top of that, and I understand, the idea of the feasibility study being voted on at Springtown meeting in this climate with those other things happening is an issue. And I will more specifically address it a little bit later, but I felt it's really important to say all those things, because you also need to understand that it could get worse than this. And the reason why Morocco is being impacted is not because we're picking on Morocco. The reason why Morocco is being impacted is because we don't have the kids. So that was the idea behind trying to make reductions. We're running out of places to go. So that's not going to happen. The recommendation is 2 sections of K and 2 sections of 1. We're going to cap it, and any new registrants we're putting on a wait list, and we'll see how many we get. But we're not going to be able to put another 17 kids in K or 1 at Morocco. There's going to be 2 sections of both, is my recommendation. So, and I do apologize for all of it. I think that was a rambling, and I think I know I rambled, but I think I got all my points in, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you. All right. With that, I think we are going to move on to item 4, the reports and action items. Item A is the consideration of the JCL Latin Club overnight in-state field trip. Is there anyone who's presenting on this? Okay. In that case, does anyone on the committee have questions before we take a motion on this?
Would the chair entertain a motion?
The chair would entertain a motion. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
I move to consider and accept and approve the JCL Latin Club overnight in-state field trip.
All right. Is there a second? Second from Ms. Bolognese. We'll take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, sorry. Oh, feel free. Sorry, I didn't know that anyone was here.
Well, the good news is we just passed it.
Yeah.
What?
The good news is we just
Yes,
passed.
we've
going on a
approved
field
it.
trip.
So
Yes. So, hi, I'm the Latin teacher at Winchester High School, Mary D. Camp, and I'll be taking the students on a Saturday-Sunday trip, and it's all planned and funded, and we just needed permission, unless you have any questions.
I don't think we do because we've just voted in favor. So
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming out tonight. I'm sorry I didn't know you were here. So
Enjoy your trip.
Have a wonderful trip and thanks for creating great experiences for our students. So we'll move on to item 4B, which is a review of the Winchester Committee on Community Preservation memo that the Vice Chair prepared.
Yes.
I believe it's in the packet for committee members.
Right.
But would you like to take, I can frame sort of what the hope is with this, but.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, so I think the hope is to get the committee's consent on this memo so that it's us speaking together as a body. And so if there are any additions or modifications that the committee would like to make to the memo.
Is the memo in the packet? Because I do not see it.
Oh,
Okay.
all right. In
Then
that case,
maybe
can we table this to our
we'll
next
have to
meeting?
table
Then?
it
Sorry.
because it's important for the committee
This
to
is a
review
great
it.
illustration of how things are moving extremely quickly right now.
Right.
With that, we'll table that for next time. Let's move on to item 4C, which is the FY27 budget update and discussion. I think Mr. Marin has some slides on this, right? So the budget subcommittee met yesterday. All the days are running together at this point. And that's the Vice Chair and I to run through the updates from Mr. Marin and Dr. Hackett around the budget. So I'll turn it over to you, I guess, Mr. Marin, to give us
If I could just start.
Do you want to, Dr. Hackett?
So I want to talk about the timeline a little bit. So what's happening tonight is we are presenting a first draft, essentially, of a. What's happening tonight is we're presenting a first draft of a 5% budget, which was in discussion, which you actually voted for us to bring to you. This is a presentation to you. You're going to hate most of what's on it. You are going to have to make decisions around it. You're going to have questions on it. You're going to want other information, which we will provide. Questions, clarification questions, asking us to go back and look at something else. That's the intent tonight. This is one way to get there. I think we all know there aren't many ways to get there, but that's what you're looking at tonight. There are still a lot of decisions that have to be made. Also, being super sensitive to the fact that there are people who are going to be affected who don't necessarily know who they are yet, because we are still sorting through licensure. We're sorting through assignments. And so we're hopeful that all notifications will be sent to all staff affected by the end of April. So after we return for April vacation. If we can do it sooner, we will, but we saw a little bit of the results of trying to do it too soon. So that's the intent tonight, and then you have a meeting on Tuesday, and then you have a meeting on Thursday. The hope would be by next Thursday that you can actually vote a finalized budget that you're going to be speaking to at town meeting, understanding that your budget's not the budget that's going to be presented at town meeting. We also held, I believe, a Wednesday possibility during vacation week, which would need to be a Zoom if we need to come back. And you also, as Dr. Matthews explained and said, there's time in terms of when the budget actually is taken up at town meeting. But we also have a group of people who are waiting for detailed information, including the Finance Committee in town, as well as others, and including people in this room. We have not done the detailed budget because the detailed budget includes FTE distribution by school and we don't want to do that until we know exactly where that distribution is going to be. And additionally, until you take action, we can't really nail down the line items. So with that, Mr. Andrew, Mr. Maron, if you could just kind of take us through some slides here.
All right. Good evening, everyone. So we'll start with this quick history of getting to this 5% budget. And so we normally start our budget process, we call it a rollover, and that's taking your current year budget and just rolling everything over and aligning for our contractual cost of living adjustments and any contractual needs around transportation or other services we provide. And so that starting number for us was this $76.2 million, or that's an 8.3% increase over FY26. So then where we go from there is to get to our level of services budget. And so what we do is look at that rollover budget and see where can we make adjustments. So we typically have an estimate around retirements. People have let us know and put in paperwork to retire. And so that was around 8 individuals who are retiring. And so we carry a differential. So from where their salary is to where we see that replacement coming in. And so that was around a reduction of about $270,000 that we take out of that rollover budget. And there were also some additional enrollment-based changes, or also through retirement, for example, the library assistant. So in rolling back from the rollover budget, that's about $1 million we reduced to get to the level of services budget. And so that's at $75.2 million, or 6.8% over FY26. And then we went back up. So we were going towards an override, and this committee voted on additional strategic additions to add for an override vote. And the override amount included dollars that went towards supporting that level of services, that's 6.8%, then also additional funds to support this $1 million in additions to the budget. And that included all those items on the right. So from expansion of core electives and of core and electives, additional mathematics tier supports and classroom materials. And so that was about $1 million. So I'm placing those here. So those are items that are unfunded in this FY27 budget. So you take all those reductions together. So you have that reductions made to get to level of services, the unfunded items in the override budget, and now you have items to reduce to get to this 5% budget. So this is the number we are working on for FY27. So that's a $73.9 million, or 5% over our FY26 budget. And then we made a note here, so the efforts around the new literacy curriculum are not carried in this budget. That is a separate article going to town meeting to be voted on. I think I'll pause there for any questions or contact.
Committee questions?
All right, you're clear to move forward.
Yeah, move on.
Yep,
you're good.
So this is information that we have put out that you already know in our effort to try to reduce and provide some relief to people, our staff. We have been meeting with the WA leadership, and a couple things that we agreed to was a couple things we agreed to. One, which was that we were not going to blanket pink slip every single non-professional status teacher in the district. Some districts are doing that. We are choosing not to do that because we know what we have to make for reductions. In the bigger scheme of things, the reductions are less than what the other districts are having to do. So that had some consequences, though, because when we don't do that, people who might be impacted have not been notified yet. So that's what we're now doing, is trying to figure out who those people are and going through seniority lists and licensure and all the rest of what I just already talked about. But one of the things in this budget that I'm recommending at 5%, there are no planned reductions to the high school. And you have been involved in enough conversations at this level to know, in fact, the override had additional positions for the high school to provide some relief and for our kids and our staff. We have a lot of kids who are unable to get into their first choices of classes, and it affects their entire experience for the 4 years. So we're not taking reductions currently, or we're not recommending reductions in the budget that you have in front of you tonight at the high school level. That communication provided, I hope, some relief to everyone who's at the high school. We're not touching right now classroom supplies. We can go back and revisit that, but I think we all know in here also, and I bet there's some teachers in here also know you probably don't have enough instructional supplies as it is right now. And so currently, and the number that we'd be talking about being able to reduce is not substantial enough that it's going to turn the needle on any particular reduction that we're talking about in this budget, but we can revisit, if you'd like us to revisit that, we can do that. Funding for the new literacy program, we already talked about that. And then Morocco Elementary School will maintain 2 kindergarten, 2 sections of grade 1. Students currently registered are guaranteed seats in those 4 sections in total. Class sizes will be capped with new registrants will go on a wait list, and then we will distribute, if we can get them into Morocco without going up too high on the class sizes, we will do that. That's our intent to do. And yes, so next slide.
Dr. Hagi, could I ask a
Yes,
question on this
sure,
side?
certainly.
My question specifically are on the decision not to reduce course sections at the high school. Like, I understand some of the enrollment dynamics at play, but like when thinking about class sizes and where our learners are at, like if you gave me $1 to spend on any grade, like K-12, like I'm going to spend it on kindergarten, recognizing that like the return on investment and the early supports that those kids are going to be able to get are going to, you know, like the difference between a kindergartner and a first grader is the difference between like reading and not reading, whereas like in 11th and 12th grade, a lot of those students are taking some of the same classes anyways. So I think like maintaining class sizes in the high school, whereas we're making some reductions in the elementary school, to me that's, I'd maybe make a different decision, but I understand you've looked at the numbers, you've looked thoroughly at this.
Well, to be clear, this is my recommendation right now, and that's the kind of feedback I want. And if you want us to come back and relook at that decision or what else we might be able to do, that's what we'll do. That's what we'll do. And I certainly do not disagree with you, but I would also submit to you that our class sizes in kindergarten projected for next year are not unreasonable. So, so absolutely.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Are there other questions, or while we're here on this?
I'm good.
I think the only question I would ask, just as, which I know the answer to, but I want to just make sure it's said, is what is a non-professional status teacher?
So non-professional status teacher is any teacher who has not been here yet is 1 to 3 years. At year 3, a decision is made about whether or not to essentially, for lack of a better term, tenure that teacher by granting them a contract that brings them into the 4th year. A lot of things happen then when they have that 4th year professional status, including that they the rules around like any kind of reduction of force like we're talking about right now, and how like a termination might happen, they're essentially tenured as part of the staff.
Just wanted to make that clear, because
I
it's a term that I'm sure a lot of folks are not familiar with.
Just one quick question. What did we have budgeted for classroom instructional materials originally in the override budget? Was there an increase to those materials?
I think it was about 200,000 across the board.
200,000? So that's just not being added. We're not reducing the budget by 200,000. It's just
Correct.
not being
We're
correct.
leaving it at its
Yeah.
previous underfunded state.
Correct. Okay.
And just as a clarification, maybe this is a rhetorical question, actually. With the literacy program as a separate, being brought forward as a separate item, that means or going forward in years beyond, or FY27 is just the one-time initial investment in the literacy program, but it's carried in our operating budget going forward.
It would have to be carried in an operating budget. The replacement of consumables, which this program comes with, we don't have to worry about that next year because it all comes for next year. But future years, we will have to budget for the consumable supply materials.
And that 200K didn't include those consumables for arts and letters, correct?
I'm sorry, the 200K? Oh, no, it did
Correct.
not. No, it did not. No.
That's a separate, that's part of it separate.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Everyone good to move on to the next slide?
I'm good.
Great, thanks.
All right, thank you. So known reductions, we have cut the social studies K-5 social studies coordinator position, the K-12 district data coordinator position. Those are both essentially central office positions with responsibilities for curriculum and leadership and curriculum. We are anticipating a central office reduction in addition to that of 3 to 5, but also some other district-wide positions. So it's where we went first. I can tell you with a pretty decent level of confidence that we are very thin. I think we're already thin. This is going to make us thinner. And not physically, because that would be awesome. But it's going to make us, certainly, it's going to be harder. It's going to be more stress on the people that we have available in the central office, but we are taking those reductions. Special education, I just want to be clear that we are, like every single year, two things I want to be clear about. Every single year, we are in the process of evaluating our non-professional status teachers, making decisions about their continued employment. A non-professional status teacher is a year-over-year decision until they get to year 3, and then year 3, the decision to go year 4 puts them on professional status. That process is still going to happen, and there could be staff impacts to people in that situation who are not brought on for professional status because we don't believe that they're ready to continue with Winchester Public Schools. So I just want to say that because there's going to be some conflating between some of that stuff and what we're doing right now here today. I also want to say that the special education staffing, every single year, it goes under a thorough review. We have to know, all the IEPs have to be looked at, what the level of services are. All the level of services we are mandated, legally required, and ethically responsible for those services, and we have to staff appropriately for those services. That process takes time. That process is not done. What I feel relatively confident in saying right now is that we would not be looking to add special education staff for next year, but we still are under review for what that staffing level needs to look like. Okay?
I just have a quick question on special education. This is exclusively children on IEPs. Does it include students that receive intervention services and small group instruction, or children that are on 504s, or is it strictly IEP students?
That would be specifically IEP students.
And could you just, in terms of reductions at central office and district-wide, I think sometimes it's very complicated to understand just how flat of structure we already have in this district. And so, when we do need to consider taking district-wide staff reductions, how close to the classroom does that get us? I guess the question I have is, obviously you can't name those positions, but I think there's often a perception that when we're talking about people who are quote unquote in central office, they're not people who provide direct support to educators or direct support to students. Is that for this group of 3 to 5 FTEs, are there folks in there who are closer to the classroom who do provide direct support services to our educators and students?
Direct support in terms of actual FaceTime with students in classrooms, no.
Right.
Direct support in terms of
FaceTime in buildings and with the educators
working with
buildings.
Educators, professional development, absolutely. I'll say to you that, out of a $3.3 million reduction, we are disproportionately represented in the amount of money that we're talking about for reducing central office. So we are knocking currently on a number that's going to be between $700,000 and $800,000 for central office district-wide position reduction, which is obviously almost a third of the total reduction needed.
And the impact of that level of reduction is on, I guess what I'm trying to get at is where specifically the impact of that level of reduction will be felt. It will be largely felt on educators
largely on people who submit FOIAs. The turnaround time from me on the FOIAs is going to be slower.
That's a joke.
Yes, it is. So I'm sorry, ask your question again.
No, just, how close will this get to the building, right? Because I think people sometimes have this perception that central office means people who are 3, 4, 5 levels removed from the classroom. Is that in Winchester, given how leanly we operate already, when we're talking about you taking a disproportionate number of reductions in central office, does that mean people who aren't supporting our buildings, aren't supporting the educators in our buildings in any way.
Well, I would like to think we all do, right, including
No.
myself. However, that it would include mainly that category of people that we're talking about who would be working with staff around professional development, who are coordinating curriculum. A good example, because we've already said it, is the social studies coordinator at the elementary level. That position should be relatively self-explanatory in terms of the responsibilities. So I would say that does service staff and kids. So that's about the level of closeness, I would say.
No, I just wanted to
Yep.
make it clear. It's folks who are more or less supporting our educators in many cases in buildings to
Right.
do their jobs effectively.
Thank you for the question. Any other questions on?
Can we move on to the next slide?
I'm good.
All right, thank you.
All right, some of this has already been covered, but we have known reductions. McCall grade 16, those teachers have been notified. And I just want to say also that we're clearly going to make every effort to manage the reductions of the positions with attrition, so that we have, that the number of positions we reduce will not be equal to the number of people that we're going to need to let go. Where we've had retirements that need to be filled, which have not been a lot. With the certain retirements, if we need to take that as a reduction, we take it as a reduction. But to the extent that we can make sure that people that are going to be impacted by any of these reductions, that we can place them and keep them employed with the Winchester Public Schools, that is the effort. We will not be able to do it for all, just to be clear. McCall instructional coach actually was a position that we're going to fill this year. We made the decision to, when we saw all of what was coming, late winter, we stopped trying to fill it. So there's nobody in that position currently. So that's a reduction. And then elementary mathematics specialists, which I know there is, including myself, strong support for going into this year. We have essentially the equivalent of 0.5 per elementary school. We will not have that next year. The override would have brought that from 0.5 per school to 1. Given the fact that there's no clear pathway to getting to 1 right now, 0.5 is not enough. So, and we need the reduction. Some of the people in those positions actually have come from the classroom. They have professional status. They'll end up bumping back into a classroom for which they're certified licensed. So when we talk about this domino effect, the reductions here, even though it's math specialists or even though it's grade 6, will eventually could have an impact depending on the status of the teachers that we're talking, or the positions that we're talking about. And then we just have the known reduction. The high school library assistant position was a retirement, and we're not going to fill it. And we are anticipating potentially another 2 to 3, actually, FTE reductions in what we call Unit B, which are our administrative assistants to support the work of administrators. So we've not yet identified where those are going to come from.
Sorry, can we go back to slide 8? I think just in response to some of the things asked during public comment, I know you probably can't get into the specifics of the buildings for the general classroom positions, but I'd imagine those are evenly distributed across the campuses that we have, and there maybe isn't one school or a couple schools that are feeling that more than others.
I can tell you that the only school that would not have a position reduction in the 5% that we're talking about right now, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Marin, but is Lincoln.
Okay, thank you.
And that's because their class sizes can't take a reduction. And just to remind everybody, because people don't realize it because we don't tell the story all the time, but since 21-22, we've already taken 11 elementary reductions in grade level class sections. So.
In response to changing enrollment.
Correct.
I do have to say that of all of the reductions, I mean, all of these especially, they do touch and affect our children, our students. But something like the elementary math specialists, because we spent so much time fighting for them last year, and though, of course, it would be better to make it whole, those were services that were provided for students that now would have to go and get a private tutor. And now, when we were talking about equity, that is something that is just going to create and exacerbate inequities in our town. Because that is a concern in all of the 5 buildings about how do I get my child the support they need if they don't have an IEP. And that was one of our answers, and that was what we were advocating for. And now it's gone. We were hoping to make it whole, and now it's gone. And I have to say, I mean, this page just shatters my heart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because this was,
I mean, this is one of the things to be angry about. Really? The parents have the right to be angry, not just in Morocco, but across the district.
I presented on Ms. Bolognesi's behalf at town meeting and fought very hard for this, and we had a very strong parent campaign to put that 2.5 FTE into the budget as a pilot program for this year to prove its efficacy. And what we learned was that 2.5 is not sufficient.
It's not
we
enough.
actually need 5.0.
We were just not even scratching the surface for the need that was in the buildings. Yeah.
It's heartbreaking because that was literally what that was, say that again?
Just last year.
Just last year. So.
But the override failed, so
yep.
Here's where we are.
So here's where we're at. All right. Other slides.
Doesn't get any better, but it doesn't continues the same theme. So I've already talked about administrative. I can't see what it is. Okay, ESP. Sorry. So Unit C, we're projecting between 12 and 15 full-time equivalent Unit C positions, which are educational support professionals. I just want to be super clear that any educational support professional position that is associated with a special education IEP service is not going to be reduced. Right? So by saying that to you out loud, the majority of our Unit C ESP positions are special education related. So the pool of that 12 to 15 doesn't include the highest percentage of category of professional ESPs that we have in terms of employment. So we're still vetting through that, and just all of our contracts have pretty clear language around procedures for reductions in force, and not unlike the other contracts. Unit C is for lack of a better term, but the last person hired is the first person out. So that will obviously have an impact on. It will have an impact. We will not be able to likely land many of the reductions that will have to happen in this unit.
I'm sorry, could you just summarize that one more time?
I would rather not.
So you were saying that among the ESPs, most of them work with our special education students, but this does not affect those
right.
ESPs.
We cannot. We can't impact any individual student's services within an IEP.
Right.
And the majority of our ESPs serve that role. They support IEPs.
But that does not mean necessarily that, having worked as one of the school committee reps to the bargaining team of Unit C and having gone through the whole contract discussion and approval process, that doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't provisions. That there are contractual provisions built in to protect those who are members of that bargaining unit based on their seniority and other factors.
And so
I think what you're saying is that we've committed to that in the contract, and therefore have to follow through regardless of where folks are. We will have to make reductions in a way that's consistent with the contract that was signed and agreed to.
Correct. So just to bring that full circle and put a finer point on it, the impact will be to Unit C members, ESPs, who are not part of an IEP plan, but if they have seniority over people who are part of an IEP plan, then the impact will be that bump.
Correct.
Okay.
Can I just ask, does that, so what you're saying is that the support person on an IEP may change?
Correct.
As a result?
Yeah.
Based on seniority and the provisions of the contract.
Right.
Which will affect kids.
Which is disruptive, yeah.
Right? Which will affect families, will affect staff.
Yeah.
So. but we do follow the provisions of the contract. All right, so that's where we are. That is the 5%. Those, we'll continue to work on providing more specificity on the actual positions. And again, it's people in those positions. So that's the work ahead of us now. So with that, we've got some feedback on, we'll go back and take a look at, I'm not quite sure exactly how we'll look at it, but we'll go back and take a look.
Yes. So, I mean, starting at already in the bottom third, this is obviously a devastating impact across, all of our schools. I guess to respond to your question earlier, and Mr. Belair's question, it would be great to get some more insight into how you're making the decision in the K-5 versus the high school, just to have peel back a couple layers, because I know there's a lot of different factors in there, to understand that. To Dr. Matthews, not so much the central office, how close they are to the students, but I think where he was getting to at the end was really about the impact, because I know that oftentimes you don't have to necessarily be close to the student to have an impact on the student, so that would be helpful to know more. And then I'd be curious on the K-5, just the impact that these reductions are going to have on class size. I'm assuming we're all within our ranges still, but it'd be nice to know kind of, that they're typically here and how they're going to be there. It would be helpful. And I heard you say that, we're obviously going to meet all of our all of our legal responsibilities on all the SPED needs, at least for the IEPs, which is good. But those other 3 points would be great to get more information on.
Okay. I can tell you that the reductions, we will be within our class size guidelines. So, because I know that was part of what was being talked about. Yeah, it'll be higher. It'll be higher than what we've been used to, but our class size guidelines, depending on the grade level, range from like 22 to 24 on the top end. We will be within those with what we have proposed right now. I will just say that getting to $1 million reduction was not easy, but we got there. Getting to 1.5 million was not as easy. Getting to 2 million was worse, and then getting eventually to 3 million. It's really not even a educational decision anymore. Right. It is a decision that is, unfortunately, which is probably the tone of my decision around Morocco in grade 1 and K. It is a true, I've never felt quite like Jack Welch at GM. Like, it is truly a numbers game. It's addition, it's subtraction, and that's where we are. So it's none of these decisions are good, but what I've tried to do is to make sure that we stay within we meet our contractual obligations, we stay with class sizes that are manageable, that we do everything we can outside of the classroom, we protect special education, special needs services.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely devastating, and to hear that it may go worse, is terrible, and it sort of takes a lot of the choice away.
That was my experience with this exercise.
Yeah, because there's, as Ms. Minyarji was saying, we fought very hard for the math specialists, and there's a number of other areas, and it sounds like the math makes it just not possible to choose between some of these things. And it's not really reversible, because we'll make all these decisions. So whatever the town does for a future override, that's going to be down the road, but we'll already be down. So
for this academic year.
Yeah.
And to Mr. Hopcroft's point, like, this 5% is absolutely devastating, but I think when we go in front of town meeting, as you said in your opening comment, like, there are people who want to cut this to 3.8, to 3, to even lower. And I think it would be helpful to have some of those. Obviously, like, I don't support anything under 5%. Frankly, that this is low enough, but this is the choice that we're left with. But I think being able to go in front of town meeting and say, look, if you think 5% is too high, like, look at everything we're going to lose with 3.8, just to have that on hand, because like this sucks, but we're going to have to fight for this, and we're going to have to win with this. So I think having that even lower budget in the list of reductions, that would obviously, like you said at the beginning, we don't want to lose good people, given, like, you know, by putting out other messaging that's not a budget that this body is committed to or wants. But I think for town meeting purposes, it would be helpful to have that on hand so that we can say.
Exercise has also been started, I believe, in March, about understanding what a 3.8% budget would look like.
That's right, and we led with
our
saying
special education that we would have to, that it would
we risk
make us
non-compliance,
unable to meet some of our special education legal and ethical obligations. So I think that work has started.
And our union contracts.
Yeah. Yes.
We'll be prepared.
And I was just going to, adding on to Mr. Bellaire's comment earlier, I guess I was wondering if you do make reductions, or if you are looking at reductions at the high school, then I think it would be helpful to understand what that does, or what that does to some of the class sizes as well at the high school.
Yep. Other questions from the committee?
I just note an observation. I absolutely agree with Mr. Bellaire's comment about, you know, the difference between reading and not reading. But I also would say that the decisions people make in high school often determine the trajectory of their entire career. So they're both very important. Not diminishing in any way, because I absolutely agree with your point. But I also
And I'll if I could just make a couple more comments. One, which I've said before, but it's important for people to understand that we don't hire our custodians. They're not in our budget. We don't hire bus drivers. It's a contracted service. So we don't have custodial supplies. We can't make a decision to not refinish a gymnasium and save $10,000 because we think we can get another year out of the finish that's on it. We have none of those options, which a lot of school systems and places I've been before have those options, right? And that's where, after you get through central office, that's where you start to look. So it's particularly concentrated for us. The fact that we're in the bottom 33% is even more concentrated for us because it is all staff. It's all staff that at some level to the classroom and a little bit further away from the classroom affect kids' learning. That was one point, and I've lost the second one. So,
as long as there are no other questions, I just have one more question that I'd like to ask. So, if we were to be in a situation where our budget, as voted by town meeting, were to fall below the 5%, which represents the reductions that you're presenting tonight, what is the sort of, how would you characterize the level of impacts we would expect to see to the classroom with a reduction to anything in the 3% range?
It's roughly another $1 million. And so you see what it takes to get to 3.3. We've got no place else to go. And I will say, at the risk of upsetting people in this room, options like moving sections of certain buildings or to other buildings is going to be on the table along with everything else. From a process standpoint, as you know, town meeting votes that final number. So if town meeting does vote something like that number, then we're not going to describe everything for town meeting and tell them, they can't tell us, nobody can tell you what to cut. So then we would likely be meeting as soon as we can get a meeting posted and come back and talk about the ramifications of that reduction, which would be publicly posted meetings. But again, to get to 5% is 3.3, and you can see where we currently are.
So there are no other just to be clear, there are no other categories from which we would be able to cut. And so the likeliest scenario would be further reductions to the categories of cuts you've already, so higher numbers in the categories of cuts that you've already announced.
Correct.
It's not that there's some other magical place for us to get additional reductions to get to 3 or so %.
Right. And what I do want to say also, because Budget Sub managed this, and you can talk about this more, Budget Sub is currently looking at athletic fees. What I will say is we have a $300 deficit that was in the override for year one that would have covered that $300,000 deficit. with the override not passing, that deficit is still there. And we have not budgeted in this 5% for that 300,000. The overall athletics budget is around 570,000 in the operating budget, and then a relatively equal amount is funded with fees outside. So I think that discussion has to be part of we could continue to have that conversation. But right now, we essentially, for all intents and purposes, we made a $300,000 reduction to athletics out of the operating budget. You may choose to go higher with that number.
But our choices there are, just to be clear, because those two of us who sit on budget sub at the moment have already heard this. That $300,000, by not including it in the 5%, we have two options. It's either to fund the deficit through user fees, or to cut either other places in our operating budget or athletic programs in order to make up the deficit that exists that otherwise would have been funded through the override.
Cuts to athletic programs, which can range from everything from fewer levels that we offer students to wholesale reductions of entire programs.
Entire sports.
I mean, if we're at 3%, we're going to be in here talking about different world languages. We're going to be talking about AP sections. We're going to be talking about things that are programmatic. We have tried to, and I think successfully so far, stayed away from wholesale programmatic elimination.
So to be clear on Dr. Matthews' point, just to make sure I'm hearing and understanding this right, because I wasn't at budget subcommittee, we have to have a $300,000 cut in athletics, whether it comes by increasing fees or reducing services that we're paying for, and none of that goes to the academic program. That's just, we're already going to be increasing fees or reducing services, just to be level here.
I suppose we could make the choice as a committee to reduce academic services to support athletics, but for my own part, I wouldn't support that. So
right, and obviously in a context where we're already not doing as much as we should in other areas like arts and science and other things. But it's just good to know that, because I think some people might think that you could raise athletic fees to help offset some of these other areas, but we're already doing that just to break even.
Yep.
Just really quickly, and because I know this question will come up at town meeting, but to distinguish the FTEs that are impacted by enrollment adjustments and the FTEs that are impacted by a failed override. I know you made adjustments to our rollover to bring us to level services, but then to go further to say these are enrollment-related FTE reductions, and then these are financing reductions.
Sure. What else? They're all enrollment related. What this budget has is a much more aggressive approach to enrollment related reductions than we've taken. So, for example, the grade 6 team at McCall has been building. When we talked about the 10 to 11 to 12 sections that we've reduced over the last few years at the elementary, well, now it's starting to go into the middle school. So that grade 6 is roughly 70 to 80 students fewer. We candidly probably could have made this decision last year for this year around reduction of a grade 6 team. We chose not to do that for all the right reasons, I believe. But so that's enrollment driven, right? I'd love to be talking about being able to use those funds to fund other things in the middle school. And then there are all of the recommended reductions in the K through 5 general classroom sections are put us within and keep us within our enrollment guidelines. We would not necessarily recommend to take those in other years.
So it would be good to identify those specifically and
Yep.
bring those to town meetings' attention.
Our intent will be to come back to you and just show you this class sizes and where those are.
Yeah.
Other questions?
I'll just say when you do that, it would be great, Mr. Marin, maybe to have the comparison where we were last year, where we will be next year. Yeah.
Yep.
Does this may be looking forward, maybe we don't want to look that far forward, but if there's a reduction in the size of the 6th grade or in the number of, or in the size of the 6th grade teams, then does that roll forward eventually to 7th grade and 8th grade as that cohort?
I loved your disclaimer to say we might not want to go there right now. It depends. It's different because, we have a shared team. We have, it's hard to say. We've not evaluated that. It doesn't necessarily mean that's true. But the incoming grade 6 for next year, and then the following year's incoming grade 6. So in FY28, grades 6 and 7 will be significantly lower than what they currently are.
All right, unless there's any other items from you, Dr. Hackett or Mr.
Is there
Peter.
anything that you need us to vote on tonight?
That's exactly,
sorry.
what I was about to ask. Yeah. No, it's great.
Yes, I mean, so this is budget, right? You've given us direction as to what you want us to come back and look at. We'll bring that back to you next week. So the other piece we've talked about tonight is the Morocco feasibility study.
So is that moving on to the next action item? I was talking specifically about the budget update. Do you need any votes regarding the budget update that
I
you
do
just
not need
gave?
any votes regarding the budget update. So your vote will eventually be the vote that is what you...
Signed, sealed, delivered.
Right.
To the town manager.
So, yes, that's the answer to that question. I think we do have more than one town meeting updated articles or not? No?
Do we have an updated figure for the literacy article?
That's our,
Right.
yeah.
So,
And I don't think we have, the other one that was on my radar was the select board members' article around EFPBC designation of membership from the school committee, but I'm not aware if that...
Has that motion language been published yet?
Yeah, I don't know if the motion and background have been published. I have not
'Cause
received...
it's gone to print, so I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming it is. Let me look it up while we're there, and maybe we can start. Do you want to start with the literacy number? Because I think that's actually fairly straightforward. So those are the three that I had on my agenda for tonight.
So two things. One, we received the literacy pilot money through a separate article last year that we have been spending this year. We are projecting that we will have a balance there because the pilot's done. And when we factor in the professional development that's going to happen June 20, whatever it is, when we factor that in and take that out, we're anticipating that we'll be turning back about $50,000 to the town from that article. So that, however they want to treat that or think about that, would, if they want to think about it as a reduction on what we're going to ask for the program implementation, that's certainly one way to think about it. The number right now, and we'll be more firm about the actual dollar, but it will be around $700,000, which includes all the materials for year one, and then consumables for out years are not included in that, and it includes an allocation for professional development that will be needed for implementation for next year.
Okay, so you're waiting to hear back for the $50K that's remaining as to how we should handle
You
it?
can vote the $50K if you'd like to. I mean, however you want to take this.
For the remaining balance?
Yep.
So does the committee understand what I mean by that? So we had the literacy pilot article at last spring town meeting last year, and there's going to be $50K left over. That's what Dr. Hackett is estimating left over at the end of this year. Do we want to turn it back to the town, or do we want to just reduce our ask and keep it, or reduce our ask here for the literacy article?
I think reduce the ask.
Reduce the ask?
Yeah, it strikes me that cash in hand is better, and a smaller number probably is more palatable to town meeting. But I would, be open to input if folks are talking with other parts of the town, if there's strong political reasons for something otherwise.
I'm kind of leaning towards reducing the ask as well, because every penny is going to be a struggle at this spring town meeting.
I think we reduce the ask.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you want to vote or consensus?
I would, I think
I mean, do you need to vote the actual number tonight, or do you want me to come back
With the
on
exact
Tuesday with the
number.
exact number?
So I guess you have enough guidance from us to know that we want to reduce the ask by the 50K, whatever that ask number is. You're saying it's about 700?
Yes.
So we're at about 650
Yep.
for now? Ideally, and I know we had this discussion at a sub-quorum, a leadership sub-quorum with our counterparts at Select and on the Finance Committee, and we're trying to, and as part of the State of the Town process, which was a collaborative cross-board experience, we kind of landed on what if the override fails, and that scenario resulted in $4 million of free cash. Everyone's kind of scrambling to figure out what that looks like in this scenario right now, and but including that literacy article into it. And I know our friends on the Select side are looking for every dollar to try to hope to free up more free cash for us to use. So I know that exercise is being done across town, and I appreciate the collaboration from those boards. But so we should be really mindful that that's how closely it's being watched and tracked amongst our friends.
That's a really helpful insight. If the select board and others are looking at a number to be able to come with it makes a stronger case for
Right.
coming with a smaller number.
Right, and that improves our chances of success if we have cross-board endorsement.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you were getting at is we've had some cross-board, what one of our select board members has called a tri-board meeting, where less than a quorum of school committee, finance committee, and select board are sitting together. We had one of those meetings this week. I would anticipate we'll have more full committee meetings as well. In fact, I pending confirmation from the finance committee chair, I expect that we'll actually be meeting here with them on Monday night, although I think we're running out of time to post that meeting, actually, as I'm starting to think about it. So we may not be able to do that this Monday. But the reality is that the message that was communicated to us was there is a perception, at least among some folks, that any dollar that we spend in addition to what has previously been sort of committed is a dollar that has to be found somewhere else. And obviously, it's sort of to the point about what school committee can and can't do. One of the things we can't do, as Dr. Hackett said, is control our custodial costs, which are through DPW. We can't control our healthcare costs, which are centrally through the town. We can't control our retirement costs, which are centrally through the town. And there are certainly a bunch of other levers that the town has if you sort of think about the whole budget holistically. And if that's really the lens that folks are going to be applying to it, is like we would not be able to, unless sort of a reduction is taken somewhere, an addition cannot be made someplace else. We're going to have to be looking holistically across both the school budget and the town budget, especially around things like the literacy article. So
from that same meeting, I think they estimated literacy coming in at 500 to 600, and that would bring the total ask to 4.1 to 4.2 million.
They estimated that on their own without.
Correct.
Yeah, no, and but these are the conversations
Yes,
that we're having, and
absolutely.
it's
Yep.
collaborative, and everyone is focused on the effort to help out the schools and help out literacy.
Right.
So we should get them the $700,000 figure soon, so that we can start working from
negotiating around sort of what,
but not negotiating up to that, but just this is what it costs. And
But I think alternatively, let the select board and the town decide how they want the money.
Correct.
We're going to give back this. This is what this is going to be. If you want, you can reduce the ask, and we can work collaboratively to do that. I'm not sure what the
but I think
difference
we should
is.
just
but-
come with the number that we need.
Absolutely. Well, and to be clear, the number we're going to give you is the number for full 100% actual real implementation. We're not going to come and ask for less than that, because we don't need to.
Dr. Elenema has left us for the moment, but at the last meeting, Ms. Kirby can probably speak to this as well, because she's been in the district for a while. Also, the feedback we got from Dr. Elenema at the last meeting was that the last time we rolled out a literacy curriculum, we did so sort of
under the amount of money that was probably needed to be spent on it. And we then only put, I believe the number she cited was $11,000 per year for the materials that are necessary to implement a curriculum subsequent to that curriculum having been implemented. And so not only did was that curriculum found to have some sort of constructional flaws by various folks that have partially landed us where we are, it was also that we sort of under-implemented and under-invested in the curricular components that were necessary to even do a full rollout of that. So I don't want to put you on the spot, Ms. Kirby, but is that an accurate? $10,000
across 5 schools.
Right. So $10,000 per year for curricular materials after that was partially implemented. So I think I hope that I don't speak alone on the committee in saying we're not going to do that again.
Yeah. Full implementation is important.
Yes.
We need to teach the kids how to read.
Correct.
And I heard Dr. Hackett saying that which I think is an improvement from where we had our consensus, is to come in with the full amount for it, and then note that we can subtract, the 50,000 or whatever from this amount if you choose to have it that way.
Yep.
As opposed to saying we're coming in at 650, but coming in at 7 or whatever the number is.
Yep.
Yeah, great.
While we're on the topic of town meeting articles, I have a question about Article 25 related to the carriage house. I was just curious if we have if we know the amount that's associated with that, knowing that you would probably know best, Ms. Minyarji.
Yeah, so this is a presentation that Andrew gave back in June, looking at different options for the carriage house, and one of them was, to make it more safe and secure. It was about $500,000. To update the envelope was $1 million, and then to demolition was $300,000.
$300,000. Okay.
Yeah, that's the estimate.
So I think this is more of just a general comment, but as we're thinking about the scarcity of resources we have, going to town meeting with lots of different asks, I would much rather prioritize the budget, literacy, and Morocco feasibility
100%.
than the carriage house. So I think if we're thinking about pulling a warrant article off the table, I think that one seems like a better candidate to me than feasibility.
Well, the carriage house comes from the stabilization funds, so it's a different pot of money, and it's an increasing liability for our students, and we're paying insurance on this property. And to secure it, the other alternative is, if we're not going to spend the $300,000, then to make it safe, it's $500,000 plus. So if we're looking for the safest option, it's the 300, and the cheapest, because we want to save literacy.
Yep.
It's the 300K.
Okay, thank you for explaining that.
But that's a good question. I'll make sure to, I'll show you the slide deck from June that we're going to be using again in Springtown meeting.
And it was prioritized by the Capital Planning Committee.
That's right.
So it's coming not out of, so one of the things that sort of on a continuous basis we talked about is, the Capital Planning Committee makes its own allocations. I think the school committee has been successful, in my opinion, in recent years at actually getting a pretty good allocation out of what capital planning allocates across the town to help with the restoration of our own facilities. Obviously, they would very clearly say that they don't have enough money to do all the projects they need to do, but in that smaller pot of money, we've been fairly good at getting, a fair allocation from the town. But my understanding is that all of the funds that are allocated are coming out of the stabilization fund.
Great. So this will be coming from the stabilization fund, so it requires a 2/3 vote, which is
and also
a struggle.
can't be easily repurposed, unfortunately, across different kinds of projects.
We can't just take that $300K and say, I want to apply it towards the literacy article.
Right. It could go to another capital project.
Right. It would go to another capital project.
All right. So that's literacy. It sounds like you don't need a vote. We'll take care of that next week.
Yep.
And so I just checked my email. The last update I had on the EFPBC language was still a draft article. So I don't want to. We'll tackle that. We have 2 meetings next week. We'll tackle that next week. So that leaves us with Morocco feasibility.
So at the risk of upsetting people more, I want to be really clear about the intentions. I also want to be clear that we brought the SOI to you. We got invited to eligibility. Part of the invitation to eligibility was a site visit done by the MSBA. They fully understand that the condition of the building alone qualifies it in a way that would puts it higher on the list for invitation eligibility. Historically, the number one driver on MSBA projects, funded MSBA projects, has been overcrowding and health and safety. Health and safety in the kind of way that is the building is sick and people are, that you have a documentation of all of that, and then it starts to become emergency funding, which is a whole kind of different pathway. So there have been so many projects that have been funded that the over-enrollment is no longer really the number one criteria. They've really taken care of most of that in the state. Part of the site visit and what we committed to is a community-based preschool for the Morocco building. Not an integrated preschool, not a tuition-based, fee-based preschool. This would be for all preschool-age children. This would be a program that we would run with our staff, and it would service students in whatever configuration of the day. It would, so there would be obviously conversations around what that looks like. Year one of that implementation, we would not receive state funding for. It would be because so we will receive state Chapter 70 funding at the ridiculously low rate that we do receive Chapter 70 funding. That would come in the following year. So the first year cost of the program would not have any state funding. It would have to be carried by the budget. Clearly, it also begs the question, well, if we're going to have a preschool at Morocco, right, then why would Morocco be the only school? I could make that case, and I think people in here could. We would need to take a look at a preschool program district-wide, right? So with that, and where we are right now in the budget, the MSBA process, as you know, the eligibility period is 270 days. The clock started on that eligibility period in early March. The 270 days intentionally runs through two town meeting cycles. So they intentionally do it so districts can decide when they want to bring it to a vote to get the feasibility funding. It can happen in the spring, it can happen in the fall. Given what we're dealing with right now, the MSBA is not, they pay a lot of attention. They know about the fact that the override didn't pass. They understand and understood when they came to the building. They know what our enrollment trends look like. Given the fact that we are in this current cycle of reductions, one of the biggest parts of that eligibility period is two things. One, it's the educational program, and the educational program is a full explanation of everything, of what the Morocco community and the town of Winchester, the school department of Winchester, wants to see for programming in that building. We did the same thing for Lynch. That's part of the process. Unlike most governmental agencies, MSBA funds, they approve and fund the project at the rate they fund it that you want, not the minimum get by. They will look at that educational program. They'll ask questions around it, and they will fund those spaces if they fit within the criteria. Which is why you end up with a steam room and why you end up with all those things. We are not in a position, in my professional estimation, to submit a good education plan now. I also think that given what we're seeing with enrollment and not knowing what's going to happen with an override, we have to have a full discussion about the district population and enrollments at all of our schools. I was hoping that I would be able to retire prior to saying this word out loud, but we have to look at districting. And districting has to be part of our submission to the MSBA.
You mean redistricting?
I like to call it districting if you choose your term, meaning that we need to look at capacity in all our schools and our enrollments at all of our schools, our projections in all our schools, and we need to decide whether or not we need to distribute the population of our students differently than we currently do. So, for example, we know that Morocco, the enrollment's declined. There's no real indication that it's going to change. We do know that UMass Donahue's study has projections on what we might see as a result of developments, which would be great. But even with that, we need to get more kids in Morocco. So, just educationally, we need to get more students in Morocco. I think most teachers in here would say a team of 3 teachers is better than a team of 2 teachers, right? Just collegially, professionally, and it's better for kids. So, I'm recommending to you that we do not pursue feasibility funding at the Springtown meeting, because we're just not going to be in a position where we're going to be able to, and I'm talking about the MSBA process, right? It's not related for me in this recommendation to funding. And the politics around all of that, and are we asking for too much and the rest of it. I'm committed, you're committed to this project. If we weren't even, this is the right thing to do from the process standpoint, because we want to make sure that we put forward exactly what we want for a building, because it's a 50-year building. So they look at the educational programming, we define what we want, our hopes and dreams, what we want to see. They're going to ask us how we're going to staff it. And then we do essentially a space summary analysis with them. And we do all this work with them, which then will determine what's the enrollment we're going to build for, which is how many classrooms per grade level. And then that overall build enrollment determines the size of core spaces like cafeteria, library, gymnasium. Everything is designed around that build enrollment. So I think to the points that were raised tonight, I don't think we have what we need from the community to be able to turn a good educational program around. I think we need to take the time to make sure that when we ask for the feasibility funding, that we have the program included that we want, that the Morocco community wants, and that we're taking the time to do that.
Yeah, I think many of us are 100, maybe 1,000% committed to moving Morocco forward. And certainly speaking as a Lynch community member, Lynch and Morocco are both in being reviewed by MSBA at the same time, and but for the grace of the MSBA, could have gone us. So I'm 100% committed to moving forward and doing it in a timely fashion. I will say it reminds me a little bit of the literacy work 3 years ago, when there was a lot of pressure to move very quickly, and I think we did things the right way. So what I'm hearing here is, and I guess I'd be curious to understand the impact of, what I'm hearing you recommend is remain within this cycle, that we're not going to step out of the process. We're not going to.
The MSBA doesn't care when we do it.
Yeah, we're not going to lower our commitment or anything. What I'm hearing you say is that we haven't done. We need time to do some of our homework to participate in the process fully, to get the sort of building that we want. And if we can do it without stepping out of the program, and with us being 100%, 1,000% committed, that's what I'm hearing you recommend.
I mean, it's a direct result of the fact that we are in the budget situation we're in, and we're making the reductions we need to make. So,
but it's not that we don't have the one. It's not that we're not going to ask for 1.5 million. It's that we have enough other things that we have to now deal with to understand the program.
We have to get through the budget, right? Understand what our staffing looks like after the town meeting is voted, and all the reductions are going to happen. That has to be our baseline planning staffing, and we don't know that for sure right now. So we don't know what we're going to have for staffing, but when we get through the end of town meeting, and we need to know that in order to put together an educational plan that's going to drive all the square footage of a new building or an addition renovation. And I will say, the MSBA doesn't care whether we add reno or whether we build new. I don't say they don't care. They do care. They would want us to come up with if there's a cheaper solution, and sometimes a new building is cheaper than ad reno, they would want us to really vet that, and they would want to know why we wouldn't go with a cheaper solution. But they want to support what the community wants for a building, right? And we know that we're talking about tens of millions of dollars of reimbursement for wherever the project price lands. That there are multiple communities waiting for someone to drop out of this eligibility period so that they can bump into the eligibility period. And there are people out there, there are school systems out there who will take the money. I mean, we're either going to do this and get tens of millions of dollars to do it, and it's needed. We cannot operate on 4 elementary schools. I'm just going to tell you, people want to shut Morocco down. There's no place to put the kids. I'm sitting in the garden level of Lincoln. We should not be in Lincoln as a central office. We promised when the Carriage House Superintendent's Office option was voted down that we weren't going. We're not leasing office space like many other districts are for central office. We have our business functions are all at the high school, taking up space that's needed at the high school, and we're at Lincoln taking up space that's needed by Lincoln. So that has to be factored into this whole conversation about we can't be there. We're also using spaces in all of our schools that were not designed to do what we're using them for. So when MSBA looks at it, they want purpose design spaces and they want you to use them for what you designed them for, right? So they don't want small group instructional classrooms taking up an entire classroom, for example, or in a space somewhere that's not designed for instruction. And we have that happening all over the district. So that whole evaluation affects the entire K through 5, every single elementary school. And the conversation around preschool needs to happen as well.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is that there's a lot of steps, some of which can't even start until after town meeting. And we need to get these, this timeline of, say, 20 different, steps, one of which is getting funding for a feasibility study. And we're just talking about what the timing is of that. We're not talking if we do this or not.
Right.
And I guess I'll just say the other observation that's just sort of an unfortunate observation from where we are is we know that that there will be reductions. And so we're going to be working off of a smaller base footprint for our academic program, which is going to be reflected in a building that will ultimately be smaller because the program has to be the program that we're proposing, which has to fit within our current constraints. So even should we pass an override in the fall and next year or whatever, it's going to be built based on where we are now, which is just sort of an unfortunate observation.
Right.
Dr. Hackett, as you were describing, like the school profile questionnaire, is that the educational? I'm looking at the eligibility period schedule. Is that the educational profile questionnaire that's due June 1st?
Yeah.
My interpretation of that is that, like, that's regardless of whether we vote the spring or the fall, that like it's due on June 1st.
That is, but that's one. I'm talking about the education program.
Okay.
So the education program for Lynch, for example, was about a 30-page document.
Gotcha.
Because they want you to go through every single program, what the current space is that you're using for that program, what you want to have for space for that program, and you need to give a full description of exactly what the program is, what the staffing levels look like. That's the education plan, which then the MSBA uses to work with us to decide, okay, what do you need for spaces in that building, and what's the overall design enrollment that you're going to build to.
And what's the time crunch related to that? Like, would we have an opportunity to work on that, like, over the summer or in the fall?
Yeah, and that's the point, right? So,
but like, if we say we vote in the spring, like, I imagine the MSBA doesn't need it like right away, given that the eligibility period is till late November.
They don't care when we do it. So that's why they have the 270-day eligibility period. So they want us to be successful with this, and but they need to know whether we're going to do it or not.
Yeah.
So that we're. And also, just to say, first of all, I was the one who was pushing with support from others to do it in the spring, because I felt like if we could do it in the spring, we should try to do it in the spring. From the outset, I was clear that that was an aggressive timeline. Now it's not even about being an aggressive timeline. It's we don't even know what we're doing in terms of our staffing, and we need to take time to figure that out. So they don't care, and we cannot say with certainty that voting feasibility at Springtown meeting is going to open that building sooner than if it's in the fall town meeting, because once we go down this path, we are completely dependent on the MSBA's meeting schedule, on whoever gets selected for our owner's project manager and architectural and design team, and then they have all kinds of other timelines and deadlines that they have to hit.
So there would be other timelines that would pop up right after the feasibility vote.
We're into it then.
Gotcha. So then the rest of the eligibility period, like it's not like November 28th, the day after eligibility period ends, is when those other requirements would kick in. They kick in after.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
I mean, even for Lynch, they extended the 270 period because there was some bad enrollment data.
Can I just to build on Mr. Bellaire's question, because when we were talking earlier, you had given me a picture that I think was a little bit more detailed that might be helpful of sort of what gets triggered once you take that vote. You know, sort of what happens with the MSBA, and when we were talking earlier, it sounded like it puts a lot of stuff in motion that we wouldn't be ready to have in motion yet.
Correct.
If you could talk to that.
Right. So, feasibility vote. When that happens, then we've already met the requirements basically of, we're into the next steps. They're going to want to meet with us in the summer. They're going to want us to go out for bid and procurement on OPM and our architectural firm. So once that happens, you're into these other steps that we're not prepared for. We're just not ready to be able to really to have a conversation about what we want that building to be and how we want to staff. And as I said, I think there are implications district-wide for we need to look at the enrollments and distribution of the districting.
So there are certain deliverables that we can be working on for eligibility phase.
Correct.
And that I believe we're committed to working on over this period, and then moving towards a feasibility study vote or article at town meeting in the fall.
I love your question, because just because if we were to do it in the fall, doesn't mean we don't do anything between now and the fall. Yeah. Right? We will be preparing and going through the documentation, because there's some that just needs to be provided, and we will make sure that we're doing everything we need to do to stay in line with the requirements and the deadlines.
And it also gives you the time to, we'll know after town meeting better what our situation will be with our staff, and that gives you the time to start preparing to develop a robust educational program.
Correct. And also just to say, I mean, we were brought into eligibility with the idea we're going to do a preschool. I didn't really talk a lot about it because but that's why we want, at their suggestion, it helped us get into eligibility. We don't run a universal preschool in any other building right now. And then we're already talking about all these reductions, and that would make that we would have to hire for preschool staff, and that's operating budget. So we need time.
So we've said this a couple of times during this meeting, but our 5% ask is not a guarantee. It is still subject to town meeting, and it could be up against a much lower number. If the lower number or anything in between happens, that would impact what you would be discussing with MSBA regarding feasibility. Excuse me. Correct?
Absolutely.
Because there would have to be further reductions made, and then we'd have to factor that in.
Right.
Not to make the current situation any more
No, I mean,
dismal,
I think in that scenario, we might have to have a serious conversation with the MSBA about whether we can extend the 270 until if there's going to be, and I don't know that there's going to be, but if there's going to be another override effort, if that override effort, whenever the timing is on that, we would probably want to wait or make sure that we know when that's going to be and have that conversation with the MSBA.
Yeah, and so now that is something that we would have to work with our select partners on, right? We can't put ballot questions on, even if it's school specific. Right. We don't have that authority. We have to work collaboratively with other boards around town to make anything with Morocco successful. And in order to do so, I agree that we need time to have good answers and make the case. Because the failed override the voters told us and all of the concerns that we've been bringing forward and all of the issues that we've been trying to address, and they said, no. We've been trying to make the case, and I feel especially now, we need to work collaboratively and bring that to fall and improve the chances of success there. So thank you for that.
Yeah, okay. And just building on what you had said, if we come in lower at town meeting than 5%, and we have to cut more, that's going to have.
If they bring us down.
If they bring us down, right. That will, just so that other boards and folks that are making those decisions understand, that will end up getting rolled into our educational program, which will get rolled into the design of this building, and so it'll have a 50-year impact on our town if that happens. The other thing I just wanted to say, if I seem like I'm, agreeing with this argument of moving it further out, that if this were just a matter of the 1.5 million, I have a whole bunch of arguments about why, if it were a financial decision, I think it makes sense to go now because it lowers risk.
Right.
But what I'm understanding or hearing from you is that there's a greater risk of going too fast and not doing it right, and that since we're within the same window. It's just a sequencing of the steps that we need to do within this eligibility window that would move this forward. So it's again 1,000% forward. Fully support doing this, but if we want to get the best result from the process, it's better to actually, get our ducks in a row before we do this.
Yes, and just also to add, the MSBA is going to want to know how we're going to fund a preschool program. So a future override, we would need to include
Universal pre-K for all 5 buildings,
that would need to be within the ask of an override.
And do you know approximately? Sorry.
I actually just wanted to make sure you were being responsive to not just the Morocco building, but all 5 buildings.
Correct.
Okay.
And do you know approximately what that cost would be, off the top of your head?
It'd be probably 16 sections if you just go currently 15 to 16 sections based on our kindergarten enrollment, because it's not optional. It's not an opt-in preschool. You do universal preschool.
Or you don't. Right.
Right.
And does that include the integrated pre-K that's at Lynch already?
That's a separate program.
So that's on top of the 15 or 16 sections. Okay.
Right, which is another question, right? Because we have community partner students in that integrated preschool program who then would be eligible for, right? And so those are the kinds of things we don't have answers for.
Right. And universal pre-K is free. Our current pre-K program is tuition-based for half.
For half, right. And it's limited.
Right.
But parents wouldn't have to spend, $25,000 a year.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it would create an enrollment pipeline into our K-12 system that would give us more revenue from the state as well.
It would be very attractive for families looking to decide where they want to bring their children to school.
Yep.
And we know that we are kind of already a desirable community, but it would definitely be a huge advantage. Yep. So that's my recommendation. You're meeting on Tuesday. If you want, you should take more time if you want more time. But I just want to be clear that my recommendation is based on what I know about the MSBA process, based on where we are and how we talk about the educational program, and we are never going to be able to get the programming plan done. We just do not have the capacity to do it, and we don't have the information, and we need to have community sessions about what the Morocco community wants for that building.
Yeah, so it sounds like this is the quickest, best path to getting a new Morocco as soon as we can.
It puts us on the right path to getting it, yeah.
Yeah, and we heard tonight how important community input and not making fast
decisions.
Yes,
we did, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah, and that gives us those opportunities to have conversations with our community.
And to have our deliberations here in public.
That's right.
Yeah.
Maybe we can have a few town halls about it.
There were many of those, or it seems like when we were doing the Lynch project.
Yes.
There were the community conversations with the Lynch community.
Right.
Of which you were a part.
I was. So,
I've been waiting to weigh in, so as long
You've
as
been so
there are other-
quiet, it's terrifying.
Dr. Matthews is
Well, I
very
mean, it's my
quiet.
job as chair to, but are there other committee comments?
I'll say one quick kind of acknowledgement for the Morocco community as someone who, was welcomed into the town of Winchester in that school. Looking back when Ms. Kirby was my principal and she first gave me a tour of that elementary school, and knowing that the building quality has been something that has been pushed back for a long time as we've seen other projects, as we've submitted other entries into the MSBA pipeline in 17, 18, 19, and then to finally have this opportunity and coming off the heels of an override where both campaigns used Morocco a lot in their messaging to talk about why someone should support a particular side in ways that I think was really unfair to that community. That it isn't lost on any of us that this is also one of our most diverse elementary schools that has had students that have struggled more than other elementary schools in recent years. And I appreciate Dr. Hackett's input and feedback around the capacity that's there, but I also have concerns about waiting until the fall and submitting the essay at 11:50 p.m. when we have an opportunity to have two at-bats with it. And I think given the showing we had here tonight, I feel confident that town meeting would support it. I think, Lynch passed with 80% of the vote, given that both the yes and no folks, at least in nomenclature and in terms of the rhetoric they were using, support this project. And I know we all support this project too. It's just a matter of when. But I worry that given what the Morocco community has been through, that waiting until the fall continues to kick that can for them and leave them behind in some ways. So my preference is that we continue with it in the spring, although I also recognize the merits to the arguments of waiting until the fall.
Yeah, and I absolutely hear all that. I'm just telling you, I don't think we can meet the timelines that are going to kick in once that vote is taken.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be in that position.
What happens if we don't meet the timelines?
We get in trouble. I mean, and the challenge with the timelines is the MSBA board at certain points has to vote on certain things related to these projects. They meet 5 or 6 times a year. You are absolutely subject to when they meet. So if you don't get your stuff in 3 to 4 weeks ahead of the meeting date, then you don't get on that agenda, and then you don't get to get in front of them again for another 2 or 3 months. So that's the issue. When we didn't miss a deadline with Lynch. When it's go time, we've got to be ready to go. And I'm just very concerned about our ability to do that. And MSBA is going to have some questions for us around how are we going to fund a preschool program when we can't even fund our operating budget. So there's nobody more committed to this than this group right here. And I understand the generational issues and how the Morocco community feels 100%. But what I will say is that this group got us to where we are right now. We are in eligibility with the MSBA because this group supported the statement of interest and they supported us moving forward. That has not changed, is what I'm hearing from all of you. And I understand the community pressure, and I think the literacy is a perfect example. Had we just implemented when people were sitting there telling us to implement something and really running out of patience, understandably, about why weren't we taking action, had we done it then, the program that we would have implemented and how it would have gone with no teacher input, teacher involvement, you witnessed the results of that at your last meeting, it would not have been successful. So it is a perfect example. It's the same issue. Regardless of the money, it's not even about the money for feasibility. It's about we got to keep our eye on the goal. And the goal is to do this successfully in the way that we want it to be done. And I do not want to come up short on that.
If we were to do this in the fall instead of now, we could make, I'm not suggesting tonight, but next week or whenever we do this, we could make an affirmative vote to put that on the warrant now, so that it doesn't get kicked down the road again.
I would recommend that you make an affirmative vote for that, and make an affirmative vote that you are that you support, you're in full support of a building project for Morocco, because I think the community needs to hear that. because they're hearing other things from other places.
Yeah, and with a full process with our community.
But I think the challenge, so the Vice Chair and I met with Morocco parents this morning, and I think the challenge with that is they feel like they've already had that affirmative vote 5-0 from us, and now we're backtracking on that commitment. And so I think there is a significant part of the community that would see that as a breaking of trust, and it doesn't really matter at that point whether we take another 5-0 vote, because they would point to what we've just been considering doing, which is backtracking on our 5-0 vote as an indication that we're just going to do that again to them. And so
I would just want to add to that.
I understand, yeah.
Because the important point of this is that we are drinking water out of a fire hose right now with this budget.
No, I know.
And where we thought the reductions were going to have to come from a week ago is a whole different place than where we are right now.
Yeah.
So we did not have the budgetary information to be able to, that we do now. And we've got to make reductions. You're not even done yet having that conversation. So I understand and I appreciate that. I truly do. But I'm just telling you, we run the serious risk of not having a successful project with the MSBA if we push on the feasibility timeline study. We've got to get through this budget because we could get reduced to 3%. And then we're having a whole other conversation. It would be a mistake to do it now.
And by the way, I would love nothing more than to do it now. And so I know you're going to wrap this up, or I know you haven't made your remarks yet, and I do want to hear that. And if there is a path to do it,
I just want to respond to the time frame and the change because it's.
No, I understand. I've been on school committee for 2 years and a month now. I've never been as conflicted about something as I am about this. And nor have I been as reached out to as I have been on this issue. And my own heart tells me that if we don't, with all due respect to Dr. Hackett, if we don't move forward in the spring, we will be, I don't think there's a good choice here. I think, unfortunately, we are very susceptible, regardless of what we decide to do, to signaling negatively to some community or the other. What's very hard for me, and part of the reason I gave the caveat at the beginning, is that I'm directly affected by this. And I think I'm the only one on the board who is directly affected by this currently. I mean, not that others have not attended Morocco in the past, but I mean, when I moved here in 2018 with my family, I was told that my kids would be going to a new Morocco. And I've heard from people who've been here 20 plus years longer than I have that their families were told they would be going to a new Morocco. And I know Mr. Hofcroft understands this well because of this timeline of his own family and the Lynch rebuild project. But what I struggle with is that there is no good option at this point, in large part because the community has heard yes, but far too many times, and those decisions were made by boards. I mean, people have blamed me, who've been on the committee for 2 and a bit years, or not intentionally so, but sort of said things like, "Well, school committee voted to do this," and they're referring to actions that were taken by the school committees 20 years ago, right? In 2007, when the prior strategic master plan to the current 2017 strategic master plan was done. They at the time identified that there were severe deficiencies in Vincent Owen, Morocco, and Lynch, and committed to having them fully rebuilt by 2015. It's now 2026, and we're not even moving on to actually get the Morocco process started. Now, there are reasons for that, and they're very valid, but what I am nervous about is that the signal that is being sent is that regardless of what we say at this table, our actions are divergent from what we say we support, and therefore the community will lose trust in the work that we're doing. And so I did not sleep last night, so I'm also exhausted, but I take this very personally, and then I try to step back and think about it from a 30,000-foot view perspective. My bigger fear is that regardless of when we do this, there is not support in the town to move forward with this project. We have received emails from not just the Morocco community, but other folks in the Winchester community saying, isn't it just possible to shut Morocco down? Couldn't we just build some extra classrooms at Vincent Owen? Couldn't we just put more modulars at Ambrose and move forward with the 4 schools we have remaining? And the way I've explained that to other people is that it's like a game of musical chairs where Morocco's chair is the one that's been taken away. And we're all now just standing there and everybody else is saying, well, sorry, you guys lost the game. You know, your chair was taken away. And I understand that a lot of things have changed given the operating override failure situation. And I will say that for my own part, I don't support building buildings if you can't support the educational program inside of them. But at the same time, I find it very hard to believe that our community will accept what we've presented tonight on a longer term basis. So, I mean, I hope that is not the case, that people are willing to accept this, because if this year looks bad, the next year without any kind of operating override looks much, much worse than this. So I don't want to drag this out, but I personally am very conflicted and not entirely prepared to vote tonight.
Can I just make one comment?
Yeah.
So I made the decision yesterday to try to move forward on a budgetary reduction issue, right? Didn't communicate it well. A lot of people were hurt by it. It was the wrong decision. It's never easy, and I think one thing that I do try to pride myself is in not getting stuck in my own viewpoint in a decision. I am never afraid to go back on a decision that I made if there's new information or it's just flat out not the right decision. Did that tonight, I will always do that. The difference between all of what's happened in the past and right now is you've never had an MSBA invitation for funding for a project. You would have to actively say, no, thank you, we don't want the money. There's never been any hope of getting any kind of project from Morocco in all those conversations that happened prior to. Decisions around VO going first and then Lynch, or all that stuff happened, right? But right now, we have this opportunity. And if we don't do it right, we're, because of the pressure around us and a really do a good job for the right reasons, not for where it's going. We just don't know. Clear by this decision. And I think we are just a good job with if we take this.
Can I ask just a question that maybe you better, because I truly am sort of and do it right now, and just hearing issues of the summer, hearing from you, and I think we should think about this until and not decide tonight, certainly, because I'm very open. But what I'm hearing is that we can't execute the plan with MSBA if we start it now. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, we can execute the plan based on a budget we don't know what it's going to be until the end of May, with resources we don't know we're going to have. And
what I'm hearing is that, as we come out of town meeting, we'll have a window of time within which we will have to make decisions that won't be community informed, and that will have this pre-K program funding, and we won't be able to answer. I mean, it strikes me that we would be putting ourselves on the path of not only having a building that doesn't meet the needs of our community, but possibly failing out of the program altogether.
Absolutely.
And so then we'd be
That's what I
stuck
was about
with
to
nothing.
ask. Yeah.
And that we're talking about within the same cycle, not pushing it to another cycle. But I do get the kicking the can down the road, that pushing it from, there's an expectation that it's going to be decided now, and even though it's within the same eligibility cycle, I get that that's another kicking of the can, and the trust issues and things. So that does concern me.
And I also just say, for whatever it's worth, like, we're going to have 6 less people in central office, in leadership positions, they're going to be able to be part of this work. So
I see.
there's 4 people here, and then we'll bring my dog and we'll get a friend. But I mean, that's what we're going to be. So it makes it even more difficult for us to even begin to try to hit these timelines.
I mean, I feel like it's a little bit like the budget that you showed us, where I thought we might have choices, and in fact, the choice is every choice has to be taken out. And I kind of feel like, like I'm not advocating for pushing this out, but I'm hearing, and I'm saying it over and over to make sure that I'm hearing it right, that we effectively don't have a choice here, or at least to the extent that we do. It's
I think we're advocating to put ourselves in the best possible position to be successful with the project.
Yeah, the risk equation has shifted from 2 bites at the apple to
Right.
Yeah, okay.
It should only take 1 bite.
Well,
right.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you have a rotten apple.
Right.
So if the educational program is not has, if the assumptions are half-baked, or we can't do a detailed, thorough job on the educational program, and we take something to the MSBA that is not fully backed up, and MSBA would conceivably recognize that and then could just vote no going forward.
But this is eligibility, right? So they can they can say, yeah, I mean, we're not, yeah, they could do that.
So
they're going to have a lot of questions about our enrollment, how we're managing it. They're going to have a lot of questions about our budget, and in the light of all this, and how we're going to fund the programs that we're asking for.
Right. So I think what you've been saying several times is that to put us on the best foot going forward with the MSBA, then we have to take the time to be able to put together the best education program that we can.
Right, which has nothing to do with anything else that's out there around conversations that other people are having about anything.
Because this gives us our best chance going forward with the MSBA to get a school funded, school project funded.
Sorry, I didn't. I guess my question would be, does our picture substantially change by the fall? Because I know there are some people who are talking about a fall operating override. That would not go into, I guess it would at least signal that we would be able to make changes for the following fiscal year. But in the event that did not make it onto the ballot, I don't know. I guess my question is, what are our prospects in the absence of an operating override in the fall? I mean, how would we address those questions with MSBA around budget stability if we don't have budget stability?
Which is even more reason why we need more time to be able to be prepared to anticipate and answer those questions, in my view.
Yeah, because I don't know what
and at least you would have a baseline
perceptions are, but I just don't know that we're going to get clarity on our budget stability by the fall. So,
but we would have a baseline based on where we come out at town meeting, at spring town meeting. So,
and we know
how much we have to contract.
But at that point, we could use that toward, like, if we voted the feasibility also at the spring town meeting, we'd know our budget and would. I guess, like, one thing I'm working through is, like, if we voted in the spring, I understand the capacity constraints in central office. I know you guys are working, like, incredibly hard, but, like, we can control that. Like, it's within the people at this table and others to, like, keep moving that forward. Whereas if we wait until the fall, I feel like that's much more out of our hands. That, like, if there is a failed override, if things change in the dynamics in town meeting, like, I don't know what the political climate might be like then for us to get the 2/3 vote that we need in the fall. Whereas now I feel like our odds of getting that vote are higher than they might be. Again, lots of unknowns, lots of ifs in there.
None of what I'm recommending has anything to do with those calculations. That's you all.
And I mean, the other major challenge that we haven't discussed is that 4 members of select board need to vote affirmatively. I know enough select board members to suspect we don't even have 4 votes to put a debt exclusion override for Morocco on the select board currently. So even if town meeting did vote the feasibility, the select board might reject putting a debt exclusion override on the ballot right now.
What would be the timing of? I mean, if we did feasibility either spring or fall, how far out is it before you then would need to go for the debt exclusion?
So the difference between I just want to say, so the difference between the operating override and the debt exclusion is the debt exclusion needs a 4-to-1 vote of
select board, and it also needs an affirmative vote of town meeting, which I believe is also 2/3. So I think the debt exclusion, unlike an operating override, a debt exclusion cannot go on the ballot without a 4-to-1 vote, four or more member vote of select board and a 2/3 vote of town meeting, if I'm correct. So those would be, even if we got the feasibility, those would be the next hurdles after that. But that doesn't answer your question.
If we hit all the
or-
steps,
Yeah.
right? Generally, it's a year and a half to 2 years before you're going out for the request for a debt exclusion.
Okay, so a couple of years.
Potentially different members.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, this board could have different members
So
as well.
Yeah.
So,
So that's getting a little bit far out for me.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Well, we won't have different members in November.
That is a true statement.
well,
Possibly.
there is always a possibility. So,
Sorry, possibly.
you know, buses could hit you. et
No,
cetera.
God.
Not you.
Oh, good
me.
Lord.
One could be
Stop that.
hit by a. Yeah, exactly.
So would you like to come back to the next meeting or?
I would like to, but I am also, I'm very sensitive that I don't want the chair's opinion to sway the committee. If the committee's ready to make a motion, I'm happy to entertain that motion.
And
I don't
I do
think
just want to pick up on what I do think you should take a vote tonight to the affirmative to put it on the fall town meeting warrant. I mean, I think you should take action about doing something and not just say that, take action to not do something tonight.
Is that kicking it? I feel like if we do that now, that will maybe close the door to the conversation about doing it in the spring, perhaps. Perhaps.
No, and,
Yeah,
and,
just-
right.
if-
But
if the conversation
At minimum, I
to
think
them-
this committee needs to take a vote about your support for a new Morocco project. The Morocco community, I think, would appreciate that.
Yeah.
So, because they've just been hearing so many different things.
Yeah, I think that would be a really good vote to take. And the other one, I think we should take a vote very soon about when, either spring or fall, that, and I know there's still diversity of opinion on the committee, so, I think giving that a little bit more time, but I think to vote just the fall, yeah, I said that right. So, yeah, I think that'd be a good motion. And you're right.
Entertain motions.
Just don't want to draft a
motion for the
motion.
fall?
Yeah, you want to
Should we
make
make the motion for the fall?
No, I think the motion was the support.
I think there were two.
Yeah.
Two motions.
So
I can't make
would-
a motion. So.
Yeah, so
So the first
I
motion.
would make a motion that this committee, just in expressing the support of this committee for moving ahead with the Morocco project in general.
Second.
Second.
Yeah. So you have unanimous seconds from everyone else.
All in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
The intent with that is your commitment to do the project.
Correct.
Yeah, yes.
With the MSBA process.
All right.
All right, and then,
Anyone like to make a second motion?
Do we have consensus on the committee that, I from what I've heard, I feel like the fall makes sense to me, but I feel like I've heard that it may not make sense to others. And I'm open to coming back and hearing more detail about what these two scenarios could look like. But if, I don't know if you guys, how you guys feel, because I feel.
I feel like I support the fall, but I also feel like we need to show some strong leadership here because we need to be Morocco's biggest allies and come forward and also partner with the select board and our other and town meeting to bring and make the case to the town because essentially it is up to the town. And working collaboratively with everyone involved, having town halls and listening to parents and teachers at Morocco, listening to the broader community, I feel like that strengthens our chances of success, not just for a 2/3 for feasibility, but also for an eventual ballot question for Morocco.
That was really well said. I think,
Thank you.
we want to be, but I think how do we communicate that we are the biggest champions for the new Morocco?
That's right.
That we can possibly be. And I think that's what we're all saying here. And to some degree, I think some of us believe that the way that we show that we're the biggest champion is by doing this process, the way that Dr. Hackett has recommended. And others, I think, are saying do it by voting for Springtown meeting. And I like, and maybe there's a vote we can do that says that, we will start this process of town halls and whatever, Dr. Hackett, you would know what the things are, but can we, vote that we, if there's 20 things that have to happen, can we vote to say we're going to start this process of doing these 20 things?
I think maybe vote to have us come back to you with a timeline and recommendations for what we can do before the end of the school year, through the summer and into the fall, to be ready to have the conversations with the community, what that might look like.
To demonstrate action
to give
towards
you a plan to plan for your discussion.
Do you need a motion on that, or is that
I don't
something
need a
that is
motion, but
usually
I'm
baked
trying to,
into,
like
with our elementary
have to do it
literacy
anyway,
updates?
but I mean,
elementary literacy updates. I mean, as I just said, we would like a previous committee basically just said we'd like to have a monthly update on what's going on with the elementary literacy work. So I feel as if, I don't know that a motion is needed, but I think it's something that we as a committee could expect from you, Dr. Hackett.
I'm struggling with just how do we communicate
But
to the
then-
community to overcome the trust issues, to say that we really are.
I don't know if it's solvable. That's the problem.
But I feel like we owe it to the Morocco community to make the best possible case for them, for the town, to the town.
I agree with that.
And if our superintendent is saying this is the best possible path and improves our chances of success.
I mean,
I think perhaps seeing a timeline. I know that earlier you had brought to us, or in previous meetings you had brought to us a timeline for the MSBA process and sort of what we could see chunked out. And maybe just returning to that, and then maybe also adding in, as you were saying, like the town halls and the chances to meet with the Morocco community. I think having just an idea of what we would see over, as you were saying, now to the summer, to the fall, would be helpful.
Yeah, I think that the dilemma.
it will also come with assignments for all of you.
Yeah.
Oh, well, of course. That's part of the
We get homework too?
You're going to get more than homework.
And your dog.
I thought we give you homework. Wasn't that the
Generally how it
job?
works. That's generally how it works.
The dilemma that I think Dr. Matthews was alluding to is that the action that we need to take to show commitment and trust to the Morocco community is different from the action that we think we may need to take to have a successful project.
correct. That is a very accurate assessment.
Trust is consistency over time, right? And that's the problem. You
Right.
voted something, now you're going to vote something different. So I think what we vote now is we are committed to, and we're committed to for the right reasons. So but it's going to take time to build trust in that community. It's just not going to happen by us saying whatever we're going to say. I'm just saying that I think it puts us in a poor position with the MSBA and for the overall project to not take the time to spend within the community and put forward our best effort for that, for the project.
Could you perhaps show us for the next, or if you can, for the next meeting, or as soon as you can, per Ms. Bolognesi's point, but maybe the dueling timelines of here's what it looks like if we vote this, and because what I'm hearing, and I'm not sure it's totally accurate, but what I think I'm hearing is that we basically won't have time to have these community conversations or to build out a plan for at least the narrative, if not the actual funding for a pre-K. Those will be turned around in unreasonable times, and so they won't be data-driven, won't be community-driven, et cetera, versus what the other one would look like, which still may be inadequate, to Dr. Matthews' point about being able to substantiate the financial plan.
And I, at the risk of, I just want to say this place empties out in the summer.
Yeah.
So trying to get it, we will struggle to do the kinds of things we should do when we're trying to gather that kind of input in the summer. I mean, when I first got here, I didn't have anybody to talk to.
Yeah.
So this going to the fall gives us some work we can do over the summer, close out the year. It also gives us a time frame within the fall because we would have 2 or 3 solid months.
Maybe you could do a thought exchange right before the end of
We
June.
could do a thought exchange.
Just say that
Oh, that's
these
a
are the
great
things we're
idea.
trying to
So
think
you
about.
use that tool.
We'll be working about over the summer.
Right.
We'll do some forums, but we want to get everyone's
Right.
an opportunity to weigh in
Right.
before they leave.
Right. and we're all part of that. So the beauty is you're going to get some assignments with some of this stuff, and you can be part of the work.
Stop threatening us.
With the good time. So it sounds like we'll postpone any further motions until next week unless anybody wants to make one.
I will say that we've dedicated, this is an important issue, and I think we should dedicate time to it, but we also have other pressing issues to get to, and given that this has come up a number of times already, I feel like I'm ready to vote. I know how I'm voting.
I'm ready to vote.
I am ready to vote as well. But
I'm certainly open to a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to defer the Morocco feasibility study to the fall town meeting.
Okay. Is there a second?
For the funding.
Oh, for the funding of the Morocco feasibility study.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay. Given the gravity, I think I'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Belair?
No.
Mr. Hopcroft?
Yes.
Ms. Minyarji?
Yes.
Ms. Bolognese?
Yes.
And the chair votes no, so it passes by a vote of 3-2.
Okay. Thank you for that discussion. You're doing hard work. So.
Okay.
Could you still bring back the
will.
what the
Absolutely.
this
Yes.
is?
I think the timeline is very important.
As we have more information on it, and I hear,
Yes.
Yep. I know we took a vote, and Mr. Valera, it's a time issue, but
absolutely.
I'd like to
And
validate
then I think
that.
also the communication about it will continue to be important.
I think that perhaps perhaps the chair wants to put together a communication on behalf of the committee in coordination with me, statement, so to represent you, so people are clear where the committee's coming from. I think filling in the holes of the discussion, why was it a 3-2 vote? It wasn't because there's anybody sitting at this table who doesn't want it to happen.
Yeah, and I also, it would be great if with more information, and maybe nothing will change, but it would be nice if the committee, came to more consensus one way or the other. And maybe more information will help us do that, because an ideal situation would be to be fully behind a solution that we think is the best solution for the school.
Yeah, but I think your conversation tonight explains the vote.
Explains that.
And your commitment to it, and this was not easy, and there are arguments for, and I understand, you all did a very good job articulating where you're coming from.
Yeah, well, I think Dr. Matthews had articulated it best with, it's a no-win situation of building trust in the community versus doing what is best for the project, and which long-term, if we get through the pain of, if we get the building built as soon as we can, we'll validate that. If we don't, of course, it will validate the other.
We're going to get it built.
We'll get it built.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would ask that we get, to Ms. Belair's point, we get through town meeting before we have another full-scale plan-to-plan conversation on this, because I do think we do have some work ahead of us, you do, to make sure we're in a good position for town meeting.
Next meeting's Tuesday, April 14th. That one's a Zoom meeting at noon. Thursday, April 16th, we need to set a time before we leave tonight. So are folks okay with this earlier 5:30 start, or I think we'd intended to have that as an in-person meeting here next Thursday. So
That works.
can we start at 5:30 again as we did tonight?
Yeah.
We may not need an executive session, just to be clear. So 5:30 was the executive session. You
So
only
we can
start
do
till
6, that's fine.
It's up to you. I mean, you could start the meeting at 5:30 or start at 6.
Or we could do 6:30. I mean, it's...
Starting early is
I am
nice.
I'm here whenever
I
you want.
personally, I can do a drop-off round if we do 6:30. So if we're thinking about doing 6, I would say, let's do either 5:30 or 6:30. So if folks are okay with 6:30, it allows me to do a round of drop-off for my kid, so.
That's fine for me.
Is that okay? All right, so we'll do 6:30 for next Thursday, April 16th, and then the tentative Wednesday, April 22nd meeting, I know is very much up in the air based on where things are at by next week.
What tentative time is that?
was
didn't
for
pick a
April
time.
April 22nd. We have not picked a time. That was meant to be a remote meeting because it's during school vacation week. So we sort of had not settled on a. Our hope is that it will not be necessary. That we'll be able to conclude things out by our in-person meeting next Thursday. But if it is, it's on there. And then obviously we've booked each of the pre-town meeting times for 30 minutes before town meeting. So Mr. Belair, since you're new, we typically meet 30 minutes before the start time of town meeting in a room here at the high school and vote affirmative or not affirmative action on any articles that we may need to express opinion on.
On the 27th.
Can I just make a comment? Okay, and maybe because I'm so excited about meeting with the Department of Education, we have a meeting with the Department of Education on the audit, and I just have blocked it out of my head.
Wishful thinking.
That is on the 14th at noon, so we'll need to, I
Oh.
am not sitting there for more than an hour, just gonna say. So
I'm not going to hold you there.
I know you're not. In fact, I think you're coming with me.
Do you already let it
So
1?
it can't be at noon, I would say, it can't be from noon to 1.
Do you already have the meeting at 1 on the 14th? Is that what you're
It
recommending?
would have whatever people can do for a time, but
Can you guys,
I thought.
can we push it out an hour?
Oh, it was for this week, not for next week.
Correct.
That's right. Okay, sorry. So, apologies. Okay.
If we do the 22nd, could we please make it a Zoom?
Yeah, it'll be a Zoom
Okay,
because
okay.
it's during school
Yeah.
vacation
Excellent.
week. So for the 14th,
1?
Can we do 1?
is 1 o'clock.
Yep.
We've had this discussion already about last week's Tuesday meeting this week's Tuesday meeting that ended up getting canceled. So
I'll need to check. I don't have my work
yeah, okay.
schedule
So
with me,
we'll
unfortunately.
I'll do a scheduling message to everybody.
Sorry about
to
that.
figure
That
out.
day, it'll be Zoom, it won't be
So
noon to 1.
Tuesday Zoom, not from noon to 1. Thursday in person at the high school at 6:30. Wednesday Zoom, but not a set time yet.
Okay.
Springtown meeting dates, half an hour before whenever the moderator says we're starting.
Yeah, so on the 27th.
We add a
I'll-
fifth night.
Correct.
On the 27th, I'll have to dial into that because I'll be traveling here then.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the case for a lot of
That
folks during
happens,
spring, school vacation.
Are any of those, like, do we have another budget hearing, or is it just these? Okay, cool.
No, at this point, it's just,
No more budget subs,
No.
right?
oh, we have more budget subs next week,
Oh,
for
oh,
sure.
yeah, yeah.
But John was asking about another budget hearing for the updated budget, which we,
Got it. Oh, like with
We've
all the
already
other boards.
had our public
But
hearing on the
But we
budget, so-
do have a FinCom joint that we need to schedule.
correct. And that was originally supposed to
For
be
Monday
on
evening?
Monday, but as I'm realizing, I did not get a definitive yes from the FinCom chair, and we would have had to have posted that before close of business today in order for it to
Oh.
happen on Monday. So I had the realization as we were sitting here, not having it confirmed means we are definitely not doing it on Monday. So,
Oh.
which stinks,
You can't do
but
it as a full committee.
we could not do it as a full committee, and I know that at
It'd be a
least
sub.
4, if not 5 of us would like to attend, so I'll have to reach out for some additional times on that
So
one.
perhaps after our Tuesday meeting, like that Wednesday evening?
Yeah, I can ask him what they have for availability, which has been the challenge, is getting
Yeah.
like a sense for both boards. These joint board meetings are always
It's so hard
complicated
to coordinate like
schedule.
15 schedules. I
So,
know.
So stay tuned for me for more on that. Future agenda items, I don't know of anything other than budget-related things that we have
I've
on our
got a
agenda
quick
right
thing.
now.
The season.
The tech thing, the tech memo that I put in the
Oh,
binder,
yes.
so folks could review that before. I'll let you decide when you want to work that in.
And
given other
Dr.
priorities.
Elenema, did you receive any applicants for the tech?
We did. We have a lot of staff applicants. We have about 25 parent applicants.
Excellent.
And, we are putting it out to students as well.
Awesome.
And that was spurred on. One of the students signed up when it went to the parent and had a very good story to tell. And I said, we were going to fold them in after, but we decided we'll fold them in right from the start. And we would love 1 or 2 school committee reps. I leave that to you to decide that piece, so.
I'd like to nominate myself for that. Sorry. But just really quickly, I have another school committee buddy in a peer town who I will not out, but they are running a similar tech review committee, and they put out a notice to their community, and they got 5 applications. So 25 applications, that's amazing.
Pretty good, yeah.
That's amazing.
We'll keep
That's
them
really
coming.
great.
And then the other thing is the memo on.
Yes, so the Carriage House
Carriage
memo, didn't make it into the binder, but it's to WCCP, just kind of reiterating care and control over the asset, its safety concerns for our
Clarify.
students, and just to clarify our position on the asset.
So tech memo and
Carriage
care and
House.
control of the Carriage House memo will be in the packet, the binder for Tuesday's meeting next week.
Great.
Other than that, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thanks so much. Thank you, WinCam, for sticking with us, and thanks for all the many, many community attendees who were here tonight. Have a good night, everybody.